And thanks for joining us. I'm Max Darrow. We are live here streaming with full coverage of the mass demonstrations happening across the country as we speak, called the No Kings demonstrations. These are taking place all across the nation and right here in the Bay Area. Millions of people already hitting the streets in communities all throughout the country, and those protests here in the Bay Area are getting started as we speak. We have team coverage across our region today. Our Sarah Donchi in San Francisco, Kevin Coe in Oakland, Suji Nam and John Ramos on the road in the North and South Bays today. And these are live pictures from our chopper up in the air, giving us a look from the sky at the protests. And now we're going to head on over to Oakland, right there at Wilma Chan Park, where the protests are just gearing up and getting ready to get underway in Oakland. That's where we find our Kevin Coe, who's joining us live now. Kevin, good afternoon to you. I know the protest doesn't begin for a little bit of time, but the crowd's starting to build there. What can you tell us on the ground?
Yeah, Max, about 45 minutes less to go until things start getting underway here. But I do want to mention this crowd. It is starting to build up, even with still about an hour left to go. As you can see right around me, all around me, Wilma Chan Park starting to fill up. This will be a march, by the way, the Frank Oagawa Plaza. I do have to mention something. I did meet a few people here, a lot of people here for a lot of different reasons, but this is No Kings Day specifically. I say a lot of reasons because the last week we've seen a lot here in the Bay Area. Increased ICE activity, protests, unrest in San Francisco and here in Oakland. But today is No Kings Day. Organizers here yesterday told me they are hoping for nonviolence all around the board. In fact, they told me they actually have safety ambassadors, safety marshals. Trevor, we could show them right there. In these yellow vests and orange vests, some will be on bicycles as well as they're going to be monitoring this march and the area. They are trained, we are told by organizers, to de-escalate certain situations that may even appear to be getting out of hand. I do want to give you a chance to meet someone I just had a moment to speak with. Oh, sir, they're trying to get things set up here. I have here Jesus and Christian. Yes, sir. Christian, can I start with you? A lot of people out here for a lot of different reasons, but it is No Kings Day. But personally for you, what brought you out here today?
For me, it's for the migrants, the people who doesn't have papers. I feel like we need to be their voice, and especially our leader got attacked in LA, and that's the big purpose behind my fight. That's it.
Yeah. Sir, thank you so much.
No problem.
Jesus, I know you're a little busy here. You can give me 1 second. Can you just tell me what personally brought you out here today?
We fight for dignity, respect for all our community, especially immigrants, elders, senior, kids, everyone. We are the people, we got the power. We don't want dictators in the White House. That's why we are here. And we're going to continue to make sure they need to stop to surprise and our family, our people, and to make sure we get the justice. And that's why we are.
Jesus, thank you. Please stay safe today, okay? Max, I do want to mention something as well. In terms of law enforcement, we haven't seen much police presence here, and we are told by organizers that is purposeful. They have actually been in touch with OPD, who says they will not have a visible presence, but they will monitor certain situations. Organizers here are adamant. They have community policing in place, and they say things will be nonviolent, and they have things in place like those ambassadors who are actually monitoring even right now. Still about 40 minutes to go. Max?
Still about 45 minutes to go, Kevin. I understand that we still don't have a total scope of how large this protest is, but if you could kind of surmise just kind of how many people are expected in your conversations with OPD and elsewhere there, how many people plan to turn out here, and what does the path effectively look like for everybody there?
Well, I can tell you they are expecting thousands. Organizers picked this location specifically because it is right next to a BART station, very easily accessible through public transit or even by car. I do have to say, though, we are seeing more and more people coming this way. The numbers are going to be harder to predict. Organizers predict thousands at least, but Max, we got 50 of these protests all across the Bay Area. Organizers yesterday were telling me that they were encouraging everyone across the region to go to your local protest. We'll see what happens here in Oakland.
And Kevin, talking about the stress for nonviolent demonstrations, that's been something that the No Kings demonstrators and the organizers have been saying throughout the entirety of the lead up to this day of protest, but also throughout the morning when we've seen some of these protests already unfold. Cities like Philadelphia and elsewhere throughout the country, they continually come back to this idea of nonviolence. Talk to me about that aspect of this protest there on the ground in Oakland.
Yeah, when I talk to organizers about that, it's a tricky situation for them because, of course, they are empathetic, they are passionate about all that has happened with immigration over the past week. However, they have been planning the No Kings Day protest for weeks and weeks and weeks. And as we've seen throughout the week, dominate some of the headlines, they have been, from their eyes, they're saying, when we see violence, we feel like that takes away from the overall message of the protest. That's why they are so adamant about keeping things nonviolent here today. That's why they spoke with us about it yesterday and again this morning as well.
All righty, Kevin Coe for us live in Oakland. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. I understand that protest getting underway at about 12:45. Much more to go over there. Let's switch gears now and head on over to San Francisco. Let's give you a live look there where our Sarah Donchi is at Mission Dolores Park. That is where a march is just getting underway, where protesters will be marching about 2 miles through the city. Sarah Donchi joins us live there. Sarah, what can you tell us on the ground?
Well, Max, I can tell you that there are a lot of people here, and before we really get into it, just a note, there are so many people here that cell service is no way yet for me to know a total, but I would say at least.
All right, as you can see, Sarah Donchi was just trying to tell us about the cell service being an issue there. There are so many people there at the San Francisco location that cell service being a problem for her and our crews there. We're going to get back to her in just a little bit, but there's some details on that San Francisco protest. That one starts at Mission Dolores Park, and it is just getting underway now as we speak. And that is going to go, the protesters are going to go on about a 2-mile march or so through San Francisco from Mission Dolores Park, where they will end up at Civic Center Plaza for a rally to continue this day of protest. Kevin Coe, who was just in Oakland, he was telling us about there. That one's starting at Wilma Chan Park. There's going to be numerous speakers there, which will include former Congresswoman and now the new mayor of Oakland, Barbara Lee. Those proceedings are starting at about 12:45. And then it's also in the South Bay. This No Kings protest will have a big day of programming there as well. There's both a rally and a march that's going to be taking place at St. James Park, which should just be getting underway right about now or so. But the thing with these No Kings protests is they are happening throughout the entire Bay Area. They're not just in the 3 big metros of our region. They're in small communities in the North Bay, small communities in the East Bay. They're up and down the peninsula throughout the South Bay, and of course, as we just noted, in San Francisco. So we're going to get right back into Oakland now. Kevin Coe is going to join us again now live there at Wilma Chan Park. Kevin, crowd building, only been a little bit since we last checked in, but I take it you've been able to find some new people to chat with while you're out there, right? There you are, Kevin. Oh, look at there. Yeah. He's just talking to this person right here. Kevin, you know, people are coming out there to the rally. We love to just kind of know, like, why? What is it about today? What drew the person even you're standing with right now? What drew this person to the rally today?
Well, Max, let's ask Assemblymember Buffy Wicks. Assemblymember Wicks, Max was asking us back at the studio what brought people out here today to come out here in person, right? There's a lot that's been happening, not even in just the past week, over the past few months. What brought you out here today?
I think simply the message is enough is enough. This president is not a king. This is a democracy where elected officials can ask questions, where elected officials are safe, and where the people of our communities can stand up and protest peacefully.
There have been concerns about protests getting out of hand, but organizers here have been so adamant about keeping things nonviolent because they don't want anything to take away from the overall message. Your words to that?
Yeah, I mean, look at this all around here. This is nothing but peaceful protesters exercising their constitutional right to object to what we are seeing in our communities, the militarization of what is happening in California, how Trump is trying to destroy California. We are saying enough is enough, and we're doing it safely and peacefully, and I'm proud to be here amongst all the residents here of the East Bay.
One last question as a lawmaker. Can you talk about this dichotomy? A big military parade happening in D.C. versus about 2,000 local protests happening across the country.
I mean, I think it paints a clear picture, right? This is the difference between democracy and what we believe in community action and engagement and organizing for a common vision about accepting everyone in our communities, and what Trump is doing, his display, his awful display of weakness is what that is. It's un-American, and so I'm proud to be here today with all of my fellow residents of Oakland.
Slumby Member Wicks, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you for your time.
Thank you very
Got to
much.
switch the mic over to the left hand and shake your hand here. Max, I do want to set the scene a little bit for you because you were asking what brought people out here. Most of the people we've spoken to so far today, immigration rights was a top concern, but this is the No Kings Day protest. Sir, if you don't mind, can I show this?
Yeah, sure.
You brought your cat here. What made you bring out the cat?
What was it? He always goes with me like that. He's always chill. So, yeah, we will do a protest if we want to.
This isn't your first one?
Protest with the cat? No, this is not. This is the first one. But yeah,
Can I ask you what personally brought you and the cat out here today?
was it? I have friends, who are worried and stuff like that. They're afraid to like go out, so I want to go out to represent as much as I can, to represent what they can, and they're afraid to like be able to do what they want to, and the freedom that they want to achieve.
Sir, thank you. And thank you to your cat, of course. Max, that's the setting here. It's extremely, I'd say the only tension is the fact that people are frustrated with a host of matters. And here, people are sitting, they are calm. There are a lot of signs. There's also a lot of flags. It is Flag Day after all. Again, we still got about 40 minutes to go.
All righty, Kevin Coe there in Oakland for us. I'm sure that we're going to see that group build up over the next 30 or 40 minutes or so, and I'm sure we'll hear more themes like that, but also see more elected officials like the council member you just spoke with there showing up to these all throughout the Bay Area. So thank you for that reporting, Kevin. Appreciate it. All right, so these No Kings protests are happening all across the country. Let's give you a live look now at Seattle. As you can see the scale of some of these events as they've unfolded. This is in a main plaza there in Seattle. You can see protests are just underway and people have really started to pack this area. It appears to be a public park. The protests likely began a little bit earlier than what we're seeing here in the Bay Area, but these demonstrations are expected to really be vast in scale. As we noted already, more than 1 million people or so, at least according to the event organizers, have began their demonstrations. What you're looking at now is a live pic of Chicago, where you can see people are marching there through the city. They're carrying signs, some of them even saying things like "No Kings since 1776, protect human rights," carrying different flags. Apologize for some of the profanity on there as well. But this in Chicago, you're seeing right outside of the Trump Tower there in Chicago, right downtown. Let's head on over to Minneapolis now, where we can give you a live picture. And this is the site of where a protest is unfolding, but we're gonna, oh, there it is. Okay, perfect. There it is in Minneapolis. You can see a little bit of the scale of that demonstration there, where people are, looks like they're marching away from what may be the city hall there, or it might be the Capitol building there in Minneapolis. But you can see at least hundreds of people just in that frame alone right there, packed together. Protests continue. They are underway. And you know what we do want to note about these protests is, at least according to the event organizers, all of these people are coming together to support democracy, reject authoritarianism, and in their words, the billionaire first politics and the militarization of the country's democracy. This is all according to the organizers of these No Kings protests. Now, the namesake, No Kings, it comes from the so-called 50-51 movement. And that name, it stands for 50 states, 50 protests, and 1 movement. So far, event organizers say they have exceeded expectations. Got a lot more to get you up to speed on. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us for our live coverage of the No Kings protests across the country. Coverage of the No Kings demonstrations all throughout the country. I'm Max Darrow. Thanks for joining us. We want to bring in Professor of Political Science Caroline Heldman of Occidental College now to give us a little bit of context about the lead up to this moment and really just kind of the gravity of this moment. Thanks for joining us today, Caroline.
Great to see you, Max.
First and foremost, just the scale of this event. When I'm looking at some of those live pictures that we've seen, it's reminiscent to the Women's March back in 2017, when you saw millions of people come together in an act of peaceful protest. Initial thoughts today?
Yeah, that's a great question, whether this will exceed those numbers. For folks who might not know, the Women's March in 2017 was the largest one-day outpouring of protest activity, likely in world history, in the sense that, you know, these massive protests have only really been happening the way that they have in the modern media age, social media, where folks are connecting with one another. So there were just over 3 million people who turned out in 2017. It could quite possibly exceed that. I also think about, you know, the most extensive prolonged protests, and that would be the Black Lives Matter uprising in 2020. So thinking about this both in terms of what is happening today and those numbers, and then the extended protests, for example, throughout Los Angeles, San Francisco, and other major cities, this march certainly will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in U.S. history. And since the Women's March was in world history, it's a big deal today.
So when we see an event like this, yes, people talk about they want to be speaking out. That's their mission, is to speak out and show effectively, at least in this particular instance, their discontent with the current administration. But does it go farther than that? What is the actual goal here? What do they hope to accomplish other than just, you know, making their voices heard?
Well, Indivisible is putting this on, and they've been really clear about the goals. I'm sure there are many goals when you have millions of Americans involved. We never agree about anything. But the stated goal for No King's Day is to really push back against what a lot of us are concerned about, which is this slide into authoritarianism, right? Where we see this erosion of checks and balances with the different branches of government. We see this massive expansion of presidential power. We see, for example, the president ignoring court notices. It is a time in American democracy where we have to really look at how we are accomplishing policy goals. And I think, you know, a lot of Americans I support Donald Trump and his policy positions, but some of my Republican friends are showing up today because they don't like how it is happening. And so this is really a push against this idea of essentially Donald Trump being more of an authoritarian and less of a democratic president than we have seen in modern political history.
The timing of this event is not, I should say it's very intentional. It's on Flag Day. It's on the day of the military parade in Washington, D.C. to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Army. It's on President Trump's 79th birthday. All of these things coinciding, coming together at the same time. What do you think the purpose of that is?
I think Donald Trump really wanted a military parade. He has long admired dictatorships that do this, military dictatorships like North Korea, and Kim Jong-un often does this on his birthday, Vladimir Putin in Russia. And I know a lot of folks have drawn that parallel, but it is quite obvious that he wants to do this military show of force. This, by the way, is on the authoritarian checklist, these military parades during peacetime. It's not that the United States hasn't had military parades. We did had a parade of our military prowess in D.C. after the first Gulf War in the early 90s. Of course, we had military parades after World War II. But in the modern political age, this would be the only time we've had it during peacetime. So, and honestly, I don't think that anyone in the globe doesn't know what the U.S. can do militarily. I mean, we are 37% of global spending. We spend twice as much on our military as the next runner-up, which is China. So I don't think people don't know what our military might is. This is very much about symbolism and Donald Trump kind of wrapping himself in that militaristic flag.
Professor Heldman, finally, if we can just talk some analysis here of the overarching, what this may accomplish, what these protests may accomplish. I remember, if we do go back to the first Trump administration and we do go back to the Women's March, that was kind of one of those events that cascaded the beginning of that so-called blue wave, where the Democrats were able to retake the House after during the midterm elections then. Do you think this has the potential to actually set up some kind of institutional change in Washington, or is it way too early to tell?
I think it certainly shows that there is going to be a massive outpouring amongst Democrats and independents during the midterm election. And like I said, a lot of my Republican friends are also highly concerned about the way in which Donald Trump is enacting his policies, even though they very much support his policies. For example, these wide sweeps on immigration, he really did run on deporting criminals. And there are about 18,000 violent criminals who are undocumented in the United States. And now he has a goal of deporting 1 million this year. So you can see how it goes so far beyond that. And the sweeps and the way in which the military is being brought in, I think are really concerning in terms of democracy. So yes, I think this really does signal that folks have concerns about the strength of our democracy, and we will see this in the midterm elections.
Professor Caroline Heldman of Occidental College, thank you for shedding some light on that with us. We appreciate it. Let's get on over to San Francisco now. I'll get that live shot up with Sarah Donchie joining us one more time from the protest that's unfolding there at Dolores Park. Sarah, one of the issues we've run into is there's so many people, it appears, that you're having even connection problems there. So why don't you give us finally that look at what's happening on the ground?
Okay, so I think that actually speaks to, Max, what you're hitting on right now, which is how many people there are here. Just a bit of housekeeping, a news gathering note. These days, we rely on cell signals to broadcast back to you just more efficiently and quickly. But there are so many thousands of people here right now that even people who are not broadcasting with their phones are having trouble getting signal right now. So what we had to do effectively is to walk a couple blocks away from where the majority of the people are gathering. So right now, to give you some perspective, we are on 18th and Church, right along where the J runs through the Mission District. And the majority of people are gathered along Dolores Street. There are so many people in the street, Max, right now that just crossing the street from one sidewalk to the other on Dolores Street was kind of a feat in and of itself. We were literally squeezing against people just to get through from a couple of blocks away. It's hard to say exactly how many people are here. I would venture a guess that there are thousands, several thousand maybe even, of people that are stretching all the way up from perhaps, I think, about 20th at the top of the hill on Dolores, all the way down. In fact, we weren't even able to get a visual as to where the crowd ended. As far as the demographics that we've seen today, we have seen a lot of people who have their children here. There were a lot of families. We saw a lot of people, certainly with very creative signs. This is San Francisco, a city known for protest and for uprising. People have got very creative with their signs. Some of them we actually can't broadcast for obvious reasons. But a lot of families, a lot of people in groups. I heard some people say, we made it out of the group chat, meaning they've been coordinating, trying to get here together since the time that they heard about these No Kings protests across the country. This is one of the bigger protests I've seen in San Francisco in quite some time, the last couple of years since we've been covering the Trump administration. Of course, some of the protests that happened even during the Biden administration. Just speaking comparatively, this protest seems to be significantly bigger with thousands of people. As far as the police presence here, it looks like San Francisco police and some of the other departments that are helping out today have broken up into squads, and they're sort of paralleling the park. We haven't really seen them in the middle of the crowds, Max. We've sort of seen them along the perimeter. Marching, I believe, is just now getting underway. People have been gathered out here for over an hour. So that is just starting to happen. And the plan, Max, is for them to march from here in Dolores Park all the way to Civic Center. For us, our plan is we are going to try our best to sort of get in the crowd to bring you those pictures, hopefully to improve our signal. But this is a problem, Max, that some of the protesters are dealing with too. There are simply so many people here that there is just not enough bandwidth for people to even get calls or messages out. That really speaks to the volume of people that we're seeing here today, Max. And so we're going to do our best to get back that way. I'm a little nervous to adjust the position of our camera, but we do have people that are gathering on each of these blocks, presumably heading back over to Dolores to kind of get with the crowd. People getting in Ubers, people getting out of cars, people obviously taking public transportation. So even though we see the majority of the activity a couple of blocks away, it looks like the crowd is only getting bigger from what we can tell here because people are sort of slowly trying to make their way to where the bulk of these people are, Max.
And Sarah, I don't know if you were able to see what we could see from the sky as you were talking. We were showing some live images there of just the sea of people you were talking about. Let's get that right up on the screen. There it is, right there. Okay, perfect. as everything you just mentioned, thousands of people, upwards, probably several thousands at least, you can look right now on your screen and see they have packed the entirety of the road. I believe that is Brisbane, excuse me. And they are beginning to move, as you mentioned. Now, Sarah, you talked about some of the signs. You talked about some of the families and the people who have come out to this. As you've been standing there, I've been seeing people with American flags walking behind you. I've seen young people and people who are of a more seasoned age as well. Can you walk me through some of just the sights that you've seen standing there and making your way through this crowd?
Yes. Absolutely, Max. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the signs that we've seen. And as I'm talking, and again, we're a little hesitant to move too much because we don't want to lose our signal. That right now is the most important thing that we could do. We saw someone with a flag that was incredibly old. It's hard to say exactly how old, but a massive flag. People have a lot of both California and American flags. This protest has a bit more of a patriotic feel, I think, than some of the protests that we saw in the first Trump administration. I think there is a point here that is trying to be made that these are people who love this country. I think some of the rhetoric has been that some of the protesters, at least the political rhetoric, is that they hate this country or they hate democracy. I don't really get that sense from the people that I've seen and been around this morning and this afternoon. This seems to be a little bit more of a patriotic feel. Of course, there is a lot of resistance. A lot of the signs, Max, that we were talking about are sort of obviously quite anti-President Donald Trump. We saw one sign that said liquidation sale America. There are certainly a lot of the No Kings insignia that has become the theme of this particular protest. And even some kids and families were holding up signs. We saw a man holding a little baby and his sign said, "My future is scribble." Of course, the scribble, I think, intended to be an expletive. But there just seems to be visually a lot of people who are both here with signs and in groups and to protest, and a lot of people here alternatively to document this. Of course, some of them are news crews like us, but it looks like some of them are people who just have cameras out here who want to take pictures of the crowds because it is sort of a sight to behold. There are so many people here out in the streets that even people are coming out, in front of their homes here in the Mission and kind of peeking out to see. We've had a couple of people who've been driving by with flags and honking and, trying to get the crowd going here a little bit, who seem to be in support of what's happening here. Interestingly enough, Max, I actually haven't seen any counter protests that I've been able to see in the time that I've been here, or anybody trying to agitate the crowd in any way. It seems that this is a pretty cohesive group from what we've seen. Of course, we haven't been able to cover the entirety of the ground here, but yeah, there are a lot of people who seem to be relatively patriotic and in good spirits, Max.
And Sarah, just looking at those live images one more time, I mean, you and I both covered protests and demonstrations in the city of San Francisco and communities really all throughout the country between the two of our careers. But looking at that, and it looks like they are maybe making their way down Market Street right there, if I can get that image correct. Haven't seen something like this in the city in a long time, but you hit on something that I wanted to ask one more question on, and that was the idea that it's very patriotic, that it doesn't seem like tensions are necessarily that high. I know you haven't had too much time to actually get out and talk to some of the people about what brought them here, and we'll hear from you in a little bit on that, but just in listening to some of those conversations while you're walking through the crowd, what are people saying about why they're there?
Yeah, you're right. So we haven't had a lot of time to stop and interview people because our focus has kind of been just getting on the air. And again, that really speaks to the problem of how many people there are here and just some of the logistical challenges. But yeah, I think the mood is pretty high. People seem to be pretty positive. It isn't as tense, I think, as some of the previous protests that we've seen in the Bay Area. Obviously, the Occupy movement back, I think, around 2012. There was a different spirit entirely to those protests and those demonstrations, but this does seem to be a little bit more lighthearted. In fact, when we were standing in Dolores Park, we saw protesters standing all around us, and there was a kid's birthday party in the middle of all of that. Unclear if that was planned some time ago and they went through Park and Rec to reserve their little space and they didn't want to let it go, or if they were actually participating in all of this. I would say, though, that the conversations between protesters, seem to be like they were out just for a day to have a good time, to get their messages out. We really haven't seen a lot of tension. Of course, historically speaking, some of that tends to happen as the sun goes down, and this is very early days. As we've reported, the intention of the organizers was really to make this a peaceful event, not to sort of play in the hand of some of the people who've been critical of the demonstrations. And certainly, we did see violence in Los Angeles when we saw people pelting CHP with rocks and other objects. I think that there has been a concerted effort that we've reported on from organizers here to distance themselves from the optics of some of the other demonstrations that we've seen across the country. Of course, it is still early hours. We will have to see how things evolve into the evening. But during the day, I think you really do kind of feel this is more of sort of a community, cohesive, upbeat event from what we can see, and we're going to do our best to actually get in and improve our signal. We're going to switch out some equipment actually to try and get you a better signal so that you can kind of see on the ground amongst people what we mean by this and see some of the people participating. But even Max, a couple of blocks away, you could tell that there are still people streaming in behind me as I'm reporting here. You can see obviously the police there. We've noticed that they have some of their riot gear in their vehicles, so they were broken up into squads, presumably taken from different parts of the San Francisco Police Department all over the city in different stations. But they are obviously ready for things to go south because many of them have their gear in their car. They have their helmets, they have their batons, they have everything ready to go. So it does seem like even though things are calm right now, the police department, as we've reported, is sort of making a concerted effort to be prepared in case that changes. But right now there's really no indication that this is anything other than a demonstration where people seem to be in good spirits, happy even, and are just trying to get their message out.
We'll have a lot more about law enforcement, but also from you, Sarah. Thank you for that report live in San Francisco. We'll check back in just a little bit. And stay with us. We will head to a quick break. We have a lot more to come with these No Kings protests here in the Bay Area and beyond. Stay with us. Welcome back to our live coverage of the No Kings protests across the Bay Area and the country. This is a live look from our chopper over San Francisco's Civic Center, I believe that is. And protesters are making their way through the streets of San Francisco, Oakland, and elsewhere throughout the region as a part of this nationwide day of demonstrations where millions of people are reported to be protesting, all speaking out against the Trump administration. And we're going to head across the bay and head on over to Oakland now, where our Kevin Coe joins us live. He is at Wilma Chan Park. And Kevin, you've been there watching this protest grow over the course of the last hour. Just from the looks of it, a lot has changed. Tell us what you're seeing now.
Yeah, a lot has changed and a lot more people, Max. Hundreds of people flooding here to the park. And actually, specifically, take a live look right behind me. We are now on 8th Street. We are going to be marching with hundreds and hundreds of folks. Just by my estimation, you could at least count a couple thousand people here already, not only just on the street, but on the park as well. If we could take a look a little bit to our left, now they are going to start doing some speeches here. We have a list of 3 speakers here specifically at the park, all different representatives, including Councilmember Charlene Wang. We have Stuart Chen, a Chinatown community leader, and Elaine Pang, president of Asian Americans for a Progressive America. Now, traffic concerns, I can tell you that Madison, right by 8th, it is completely shut down. Anyone who is going to be trying to head this way, do not come to this part of Oakland. People will be marching on these streets all along 8th and then on Broadway until they get to Frank Ogawa Plaza, right in front of the steps of City Hall. I do have to point something out though, Max. Can we take a live look right here? Trevor, this is the first sign of law enforcement I have seen in Oakland all day. As you can see, these cars are unmarked and they're going to be creeping right through here. This is the first semblance of law enforcement and crowd control efforts that we have seen so far. I have seen some streets blocked off to help control this crowd in terms of directing them in certain directions, but this is something that organizers with Indivisible spoke to us about. They said they have been in touch with OPD. OPD is not going to have a heavy police presence. They're going to be monitoring this march, but they explicitly said they're working with the organizers here to keep things nonviolent and safe. This march, I believe, is going to start in about 20 minutes. These speakers still have to go, but about 5 minutes ago, organizers in all those yellow vests we were telling you about, the safety marshals who are trying to de-escalate certain situations, if they do pop up, they were going around the park and they were just yelling, hey, everyone get to 8th, everyone get to 8th, and here we are. You have really a diverse crowd here, I'd say. A lot of families too, Max.
And Kevin, just looking at all the different flags, different signs, and really different faces there in the crowd, in your conversations with some of the people who you've been out there with, what is their primary reason for wanting to come out? Earlier you mentioned, we talked to somebody who said he has friends and family who are scared because of the way of the immigration policies right now. But there's a lot more than just one simple policy that has drawn this massive response from Americans from coast to coast. So, is there anybody right there that you can talk to that can give us a little glimpse of, their thought process right now in this moment?
Well, I just want to point one thing out. I did hear Sarah, before this last break, point out just the number of American flags. This is about democracy for these protesters. It is about preserving democracy in the country. And Max, you mentioned it, immigration rights on top of a lot of people's minds right now, especially with everything that's been happening in California in the past week. But this No King's Day protest, it has been planned for quite some time, all in an effort for these people to preserve democracy. Excuse me? Ma'am? Ma'am? No, it's okay. Ma'am, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
What brought you out here today? My anchor Max is wondering what personally brought you out here today.
This thing about people who run our government need to respect everyone, all peoples. Doesn't matter whether they're immigrants or white or pink or purple or Native American. We have the wrong government going on right now. That's just my thing.
What was your name, ma'am?
Diane.
Diane?
Yeah.
Can I ask you one more thing?
Sure.
The difference, the contrast here of this happening here versus the parade in D.C. What are your thoughts?
No comparison, right? I mean, that's just egregious. It's really difficult to even know that that's going on right now, today. So, it's wrong. So, and for the wrong reasons.
Diane, thank you. Stay safe out here, okay? Max, we do have some speakers who are just starting to get underway.
Thank you, Barbara.
Max, I still have you.
was going to say, Kevin, you were out there at some of the protests earlier this week in San Francisco. Just the atmosphere appears very different, but it looks like Mayor Barbara Lee is actually on stage. Let's listen in there for just a moment.
Yeah, here we go.
People who understand that we have the right to protest, a right to make sure that our government is not unlawful, that it uplifts and supports the Constitution and does not break laws. Does not break laws. And you all know what you know what laws we're talking about, right? And I, just a moment of personal privilege, was born and raised in a border town in El Paso, Texas, in an immigrant community. And I know what it's like to be intimidated. And I know what it's like to be worried. And I know what it's like to be anxious about what could take place. So let's circle the wagons. Let's make sure that our immigrant community knows that we stand with them. And that we're not going to allow any outside interference in our community, and we're going to peacefully protest, right? We're going to uphold our constitutional rights, right? And we're going to repeat once again that we're going to protect our democracy, that we do not allow dictators in a democracy, because we are not going to allow this country, our great country, to devolve into an autocracy. And that's what we are pushing back on. Let's stand strong, and thank you for showing up, and thank you for showing out.
Barbara Lee speaks for me! Yes!
So, Max, that was Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee. She just spoke briefly there. Max, you were talking about, and you were asking what brought people out here personally. I think Mayor Lee summed it up right there in terms of what I'm hearing from a lot of people. She mentioned immigration rights. She mentioned the First Amendment. She mentioned democracy as well. All of that under this umbrella of No King's Day.
And Kevin, finally for you, while you're out there, and it just looks like it's going to begin to march any moment now, I was trying to get to this earlier, you were out there in San Francisco when the initial protests after those ICE raids in Los Angeles broke out. The atmosphere there appeared to be very different than the atmosphere today of what we're seeing in Oakland and in San Francisco and elsewhere. Can you speak to the contrasting feels of that day versus today?
I think what I would point out is the protests we saw earlier in the week were for very, very specific causes: immigration rights, protecting immigration rights, increased ICE activity in California. Here, organizers here have been watching everything that's been happening out the week, and this has been a major focal point for them to make sure nothing violent could come up. And you even heard Mayor Barbara Lee mention it. She was getting the crowd up with all that energy, and she was saying, we are going to exercise our First Amendment right, and we're going to do it safely. Organizers here, as we've mentioned, they've been in touch with OPD, keeping things nonviolent in this current tone you're seeing right now at this indivisible protest in the East Bay, in San Francisco, all across the country. This has been a focal point for them because of everything we've seen here in San Francisco and across the country this week.
Kevin Coe live for us in Oakland this afternoon. Thank you for that. We'll check back in with you in a little bit once that protest really starts to get underway and the march begins. Kevin, thank you for your reporting there. Let's give you a live look now at another community in the East Bay. This is right now in Walnut Creek, where a protest is underway. What we were telling you earlier is these protests are not just happening in the three major metros here in the Bay Area. They are happening in communities all throughout, big and small. So this is just one example of one of these protests happening here. This is in Walnut Creek's downtown area. CBS News Bay Area producer Melanie Corey is there among the folks watching and documenting this protest there. I believe she may be able to join us and chat with us. Nope, she is not able to join us, unfortunately. But let's head on now to Sacramento, where protests continue to happen as well. That's where we find our sister station, CBS News Sacramento's Nina Burns live for us. Nina, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing on the ground? It sounds like it's pretty loud.
That's right, Max. Now, this started off at 10 a.m. with just a few hundred people, and we are now at thousands. About 20 minutes ago, people marched down 10th Street. And an important note here is that they said there'd be no road closures today. If you take a look over here, CHP did start blocking again, so they are crowded, trying to get cars to honk and engage again. But there are groups upon groups that made it through and were on the streets. We do hear other protesters asking them to get back on the sidewalk to keep this peaceful. And as of now, it appears most people did return to the sidewalks, but we have heard one of the main groups are still marching through the streets. Now, we got to be careful here because of signs, but if we could look over at the Capitol very, very carefully, it is packed. The reason why they started on 10th Street is that there was nowhere else to go. Every single place, from the doors of the Capitol all the way to the sidewalk, were filled. And now we have people that were standing on 10th, and now they are marching down it. Now, this is supposed to end in 12 minutes, but no one appears to be going anywhere. In fact, we just saw another group of people jump out of a car with their signs and join in. So we will stick with this. We don't think it's going to be done at 1. We don't think it's going to be done anytime soon. And we're going to try to catch up with that first group over there, but I will send it back to you guys right now.
Nina Burns live for us in Sacramento. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. Let's head on now up to San Rafael here in the North Bay, where our Suji Nam joins us live. And Suji, you are in the midst of a protest there. Talk to us about what you're seeing there.
Max, that's right. I'm here in downtown San Rafael, like you said, right in the middle of it. I mean, look at this huge crowd of activists right behind me. And let me flip the camera to show you this side. I mean, there are even people standing up on the roof over there. A lot of the people that were standing here actually started filtering over there to the streets to raise their flags and their signs out high. And you know, these signs are very interesting. It's not just fighting for immigration rights. There are signs fighting for veterans' rights, signs fighting for postal workers' rights. So it's a really big crowd out here, very peaceful activism to stand up for everyone's rights. And now I have right here with me Richard Green. Richard, he is a resident of San Rafael. Richard, tell me a little bit, first of all, what does your sign say?
My sign says, it used to say no parking, now it says no king, stop Trump.
And Richard, tell me, why are you out here today?
To stand in solidarity with my fellow citizens, raise my voice and say, we're supposed to be a democracy, we're not supposed to have a king. And yet we got a president who's seems to think he's king.
And this isn't your first time out here. Tell me about the last time you were out here and what you were fighting for.
Last time we were fighting for essentially the same thing. We were also asking for them to bring Kilmar Abrego back home, which they said they couldn't do, and then magically they've done.
And my last question, Richard, but you being out here with hundreds of your fellow neighbors, what is the message that you'd like to get across from California all the way to D.C.?
That we have to stand together and fight together to restore our democracy.
All right, Richard, thank you so much. And again, if you just take a look at all these signs here, I mean, again, it's been a very peaceful protest of everyone here. Max, there are speakers out there on the stage, and I was told that there are no reports of any sort of march or walk happening. This is kind of the main spot right here, so people are pretty excited about being out here. Yes. Max?
And Suji, you're standing in the middle of downtown San Rafael. If you could give us just an idea of how tight it is there, because it's not like San Rafael is this massive, massive community there, but it seems like people from all over the North Bay have descended upon this area to really try to come together and have their voices heard.
Yeah, that's right, Max. I mean, I'm right here, kind of in sort of like a town square kind of thing. But let me walk over this way. Hopefully the service isn't too bad. But here I'm along 4th Street. And all these people that are out here were actually standing right over there. But they've all started filtering out here to the streets, raising their flags and their signs. I mean, it's just a huge group of people out here, all here for the same thing, to fight for rights.
And one of the things that I can hear in my ear right now, and hopefully our viewers can hear it too, it's pretty loud over there, and it's almost a different sound than some of the other protests that we've seen so far. If you can talk about the energy, I guess I should say, is it tense, or is it more just, I'd almost use the word passionate instead of tense, if we can feel a difference?
Definitely, yeah, definitely not tense at all. I wouldn't say. I think there are a lot of families out here, a lot of parents with their children raising their flags, saying stuff like "Stop the coup," "No queens, only queens." As you can hear, Max, it is very loud. All these people are showing their solidarity, honking their cars as they're driving by. Even there are letters in chalk right here, messages to show their solidarity. But again, you can really just see. Let me see if I can safely step out onto the street here. But it's just a huge crowd of supporters here, all passionate and all chanting.
Suji Nam, live for us in downtown San Rafael on this Saturday. Suji, thank you for that reporting. Let's now head on over to the South Bay. We are going to go now live to San Jose, that's where our John Ramos is. And John, you are right there in the middle of the rally and the march at St. James Park. Tell us about kind of the atmosphere and what you've seen so far.
Yeah, well, actually, let me show you what it looks like. Hold on. Let me flip the camera. There are literally thousands of people here. They were expecting about 6,000, and the organizer that I talked to said with the people that were showing up, it looks like it could be closer to 10. They all arrived here at St. James Park, which is about a block from City Hall or so, and now everybody's doing a march. The march is going to kind of do a circular route past City Hall, I think, and come and be back here where they'll then be doing some speeches later on. It's just, it's pretty stunning to see this because we've seen protests before, but I've never seen one with so many people that look like maybe they don't normally do this. That's kind of the feeling now. So I don't know. There is a feeling here that this is bigger than just an issue like immigration, which is actually a fairly large issue for San Jose. There's a lot of people here who, if they're not immigrants themselves, or the family, or have parents or grandparents who were immigrants at one time. It's a very diverse community, and this is one of those places where that kind of thing really strikes home. So they're coming here for that. They're coming here because, in honesty, a lot of people here feel like this is what they're having to do to support the country itself. And this is a moment in history, and no matter how it turns out, we should probably all remember this because this is something we'll be telling our kids, our grandkids, and even their grandkids about.
John Ramos, so one of the things that everybody, of course, has been keeping an eye on is making sure that these protests remain peaceful. Just from your shot there, I can't tell if there are any police officers or anybody in uniform there. Can you give us a quick sense of the law enforcement presence, if one is there?
There's not huge law enforcement presence around here. You don't anything off. Beginning, the very first thing they said to people was they made everybody raise their hand and promise and take a vow that they would not be that they would not engage in any kind of violence and that they would not respond to any kind of violence directed at them. So I mean that was like that was the big talking point here to begin with, because they don't want this to generate into something that takes the issue off of what they really want to talk about. But so far it's been quiet. People are fired up, but they seem like this is something that's important to them, and they're not going to mess it up by just running around doing something crazy.
John Ramos reporting live for us in San Jose on the No Kings March. We appreciate it. We'll get back to you in just a little bit. Stay with us. We're going to head to a quick break, but a lot more to come. When we rejoin just in a few moments, we'll send you out to break with a look at the protests as marchers make their way down Market Street in San Francisco. Stay with us. Welcome back. Here's a live look at the No Kings protest in San Francisco unfolding, making its way towards Civic Center Plaza. People are in the midst of a 2-mile march from Dolores Park to Civic Center Plaza. And as you can see, that's a zoomed in look right there from our eye in the sky, our chopper flying live above. If you are just joining us, we are live streaming full coverage of the No Kings demonstrations all across the country, including in communities all throughout the Bay Area today. Demonstrations speaking out against President Donald Trump and his administration are happening right now as we speak. Millions of people are participating. That includes thousands in Oakland as well, and that's where Kevin Coe is joining us live. Kevin, it looks like the march has began, and you're making your way through the streets of Oakland. Where are you headed?
Yeah, the march has just started, currently at the intersection of 8th and Jackson Street. I do want to give you a live look right behind me. Leading thousands of protesters on this march on 8th Street, you have this contingent right in front of you. It includes Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, who we spoke with earlier. Also, Oakland City Council members, including Charlene Wang. Now, I do have to tell you right behind us, that loud noise you hear, Trevor, if we could turn around just to set the scene a little bit. You have this pickup truck right here with this woman with the No Kings hat and the logo on her shirt as well, leading the crowd in chants as they go through Oakland's Chinatown. Now, organizers actually told me before they have people all around the area just in case, picking up trash, because with all this split traffic, a lot can happen. Trevor, we could show this right here at Wong Kee Supermarket here on 8th Street. You have these workers who have their phones out. They are recording all of them. I think one woman is actually coming out right now as well. The scene here, though, so far, the tone has been extremely peaceful. It has stayed that way. I can tell you right behind me, it is filling up. It's hard to see how many people are here, but when I spoke with a few organizers earlier, they had guesstimated somewhere between 7,000 to 10,000 people. And I do have to mention, organizers gave 2 options for this march. You could have met here at the park and then marched to Frank Ogawa Plaza, or option number 2, you could just be right there at Frank Ogawa Plaza, right in front of the steps of City Hall. There are, according to organizers, several hundred people already there waiting as well. This march, though, it's going to take about 30 minutes cutting through Chinatown here. It is just starting to get rolling, Max.
Kevin, among the people who are actually marching there, are you seeing people who could be first-time protesters and families out there, or is this really kind of like an all-encompassing event?
Yeah. 1 second, Trevor, 1 second, right here. You're speaking of families. Right here, you're speaking of families. It is a family affair out here. It is a family-friendly event, according to organizers, too. A lot of families, a lot of kids. I actually spoke with one parent, and I was asking her, what made you bring the kid out here today? She said, I wanted to make sure my son knows about what's going on in the country. She didn't want to hide her son from what she saw as injustice. And according to her, she and her son are here to fight for democracy, as a lot of families are, Max.
And Kevin, you've covered protests in the Bay Area. You've covered protests in Seattle, where you spent some time as a reporter as well. How does this fit into the picture of protests that you've covered?
In terms of numbers, this one's pretty big. It's quite an impressive showing here by Indivisible East Bay and by Oaklanders here. It's very, it's hard to say it's calm, Max, because to these people, this is a very important moment. The pressure is on for all of these people because they truly believe that democracy is faltering before them. So it's hard for me to say it's completely calm, but when you compare it to protests where we've seen unrest follow, there's no indication of that happening here. This is a very family-friendly event. What takes me aback more than anything is just seeing the number of people that are here. There's thousands and thousands of people walking through Oakland Chinatown right now.
Hopefully we can make sure it stays peaceful. Kevin Coe for that. Thank you for your reporting. We'll check back in just a little bit. Let's switch gears now and take you across the bay and head on over to the city. That's where we find Sarah Donchi. It looks like, Sarah, you've moved now. Sounds like you're in Civic Center Plaza. It looks like it at least.
Yeah, we are in Civic Center Plaza. In fact, we were actually able to get ahead of the bulk of the people who are marching. So it's actually relatively empty compared to what it might be in just a little while. But let me show you what the crowd looks like here as people start to stream in and arrive. We are at the steps, or just in front of the steps of City Hall here at Civic Center Plaza, where people are starting to pour in. There are speakers who are talking just at the steps here. And as people start to arrive, they're gathering. They have people with little tents here distributing materials. We've got people with signs, people who are sort of holding anti-fascism signs, lots of American flags, kind of the way that we saw a little earlier when we were coming from Dolores Park. But this is sort of the beginning of the crowds here, because people are still marching in, and we're going to still see people arriving here in the next, I would say, probably in about the next 30 minutes or so. So this is what the scene looks like here. Again, you see a lot of flags. There's a lot of flags for Pride, for trans rights, the California flag, some people with signs referencing January 6th. There's just really sort of a mix of everything. We're going to do our best not to show any of the profanity on the signs, which we haven't actually seen that much of. We've seen a lot of families, and we've been talking about that earlier with Oakland, in Oakland with Kevin Coe, but here pretty much the same thing, and along the parade route, people marching. But yeah, this is probably going to get a lot busier in the next couple of minutes as we sort of await the majority of the protesters, and obviously you can hear the helicopter in the air. And as we got here, we noticed the San Francisco Fire Department is staged just along the outside of Civic Center Plaza, and they are all dressed in tactical gear. So they have ambulances and medics pre-positioned, but they have sort of the full regalia of what they would have on if they were going into any kind of unrest, which is not what we are seeing. I just want to reiterate that. Kevin Coe was talking in Oakland about that not being the situation there, and certainly this is not the situation here. This is more of the mood and the atmosphere of a barbecue than anything that we've seen that resembles any kind of unrest anywhere else in the country. Just vibes are high. Gentlemen, where did you guys come from? Where did you guys come from?
San Francisco.
Why did you come out today?
Oh, I'm not prepared. My brain is because
I know it's an ambush. Tell us, Aaron, I noticed there are a lot of flags here. We noticed a lot of American flags, a lot of California flags, a lot here. And what is the cause that you're representing?
We're fed up with this tyranny, this fascism, this pure meanness at the federal government. It's shocking to see our democracy just being washed away. Checks and balances we thought would hold are just crumbling around us. It's terrifying.
We are in the Bay Area, known for resistance and protest. This is kind of our brand on the national stage, I would say. Is this the first protest that you've participated in the last week or so?
In the last week, yeah.
And what do you think? What has your impression been so far? Did you march all the way from Dolores? What has your impression been of today so far?
It's been huge. It's great to see people turning out. I mean, we don't even know who organized this. People just come out to say enough is enough.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to us, and enjoy the beautiful sunny day out here. Again, so I just think that it's more of a kind of friendly, calm atmosphere. I don't think this resembles anything that we've seen in terms of some of the parts of LA, downtown LA, a specific small part of downtown LA that devolved into chaos. Max, we're going to stay out here for hours, so we're going to see how things change and evolve. But right now, it's sort of a really friendly, upbeat atmosphere with, you know, people holding signs and enjoying what has turned out to be a beautiful sunny day.
And you know, Sarah, one of the things that's jumping out to me just from watching your live shot there, seeing some of the signs, it goes back to the idea that this was organized before the ICE raids occurred in Los Angeles, before the National Guard was deployed by President Trump, and before tensions really flared up. I saw somebody with a sign that said, "Save our scientists." People are going around with the pride flag there. In terms of that atmosphere that you mentioned it's like a barbecue at this point. From the live shots that we saw of the people streaming on their way over to Civic Center, I'm sure the atmosphere is going to change in just a little bit. If you could, though, speak to, is there a feeling of tension in the air or anything like that? Or you can't even venture that far to say that?
No, honestly, from my perspective and for the perspective of the crew that I'm with right now, I think they can nod and tell me if they disagree. It's really nothing like that. It's just very calm. I think people are, impassioned, but we really haven't even heard people sort of shouting. I mean, there have been some chants and things like that, but it's really calm. Let me just show you. My photographer, Rick, is going to kind of cut through the crowd here a little bit. Max, you kind of touched on something that I found to be interesting. So, yes, I understand this is happening on the heels of some of the crackdown on immigration, some of the ICE arrests and raids, but this has become sort of a melting pot of people who are speaking out about a variety of issues. Again, you heard the gentleman talking about sort of fascism, and this has become sort of a broader speaking out against the broader policies of the current immigration, including gay rights, obviously including immigration, some free speech. Obviously, the No Kings message is here. This person in front of us has a sign that says George Soros forgot to pay me, which is, of course, alluding to the notion, the accusations made that protesters are paid by some in the political world. But yeah, this, Max, has become, there we have a Palestinian flag. I mean, this has sort of become a melting pot of people who are airing their grievances about a variety of issues. This is really not about one particular issue, Max.
Sarah, we will check in with you in just a little bit. I'm sure it's going to look a lot different when we come back to your live shot, just based upon those live pictures of people walking down Market Street, continuing that trek from Dolores Park. Thank you for reporting there, Sarah, in San Francisco. We'll check back in just a little bit. Let's head on up to the North Bay now, where we're going to check in with Suji Nam. She is live for us in San Rafael, back there downtown, where we can hear chanting and people beating a drum behind you there. Suji, what's going on?
Max, it is a very lively crew out here. Let me flip the camera now to show you where I'm at. I'm in downtown San Rafael. You can see so many people are waving their flags, showing solidarity and unity for everyone here in the North Bay and all across the country. People up there have been chanting for the past hour or so, and I mean, it's just a great showing of support and solidarity from everyone here, raising signs, honking. It's a really big showing, and here are 3 women from Marin. Thank you so much for doing this for me. Tell me, first of all, why are you out here?
This is a turning point for America. We rise together or we fall apart.
And what's the message that you'd like to get across?
Well, I'm here to stand up for what's right for the country and for us and for the state and for all of us.
And what does your sign say right here?
Don't tread on me, which is California. We don't want that control in our state. We want freedom of speech and freedom of being ourselves and freedom of expression and living our life without fear.
And this is your 3rd time or several times you've been out here. Tell me a little bit about how the crowd is. What are you feeling right now?
I am so full, my heart and soul and my commitment that we've got to get through this. And this is a protest, a movement of movements that's been building and building. This is the day. This is pray for a turning point. I could not turn out today.
And my last question is, so many of your neighbors are out here today. What is the message that you would like to get across?
That we're going to stand up and fight back. That's what we've been chanting, and every single one of us has got to find a place. Money, involvement, time. But it's time for everyone, not just to watch the news, but to take one action, just one action. This is it. This is our time.
Thank you so much. As you can see, this is just Max. This is the energy that I've been seeing here for the past hour or so. A lot of people were out there in that center. They've all congregated out here to the streets. Everyone driving through, thumbs up, waving their hands out. That guy over there is throwing up a peace sign. I mean, it's been a very energetic group out here. Again, streets to streets, just filled out all around, Max.
Suji, you mentioned somebody throwing a peace sign up in the air. That's been kind of one of the themes that the organizers had really stressed. They wanted these to be peaceful demonstrations throughout the country. In terms of the atmosphere there, have you seen much of a law enforcement presence? Has there been any kind of intense moment or anything like that? Because at least from the looks of it, it doesn't appear that way.
Max, I mean, unless they're undercover, I have not really seen any uniformed law enforcement agencies out here. Give me 1 second. Let me wait till this car passes.
Be safe.
Now, I did see a police car. If you can see it right there. There is one police car that I see out there, but again, Max, unless they're undercover, I do not see any uniformed police officers right now. But since the hour and a half that I've been out here, Max, I have not really seen any sort of dissent, no violence. It's been a very peaceful, just continuing chants that fill the streets here in downtown San Rafael, Max.
And Suji, finally, you've covered protests throughout, different television markets in different cities in America there. Just if you can kind of bring us into the moment as a reporter, how does this compare to historic protests you've been on the front lines for?
I think absolutely. We've been seeing so many narratives of protests, reports of violence in other parts of the country. But when you're out here, when you're standing where I'm standing, the energy, the environment is so much more different than what people may have heard. They're all out here chanting, being supportive of each other, and sending a positive message rather than what could be violence, what could be loud and dangerous. But here up in San Rafael, here in the North Bay, it's nothing but support, Max. Everyone's smiling and chanting and telling each other and saying the message that we're all here for you and we're standing in solidarity.
Suji Nam live for us in San Rafael. Thank you for your reporting there. We appreciate it, Suji. We're going to head to a quick break, but as we do, we want to give you a live look one more time at Market Street in San Francisco on this historic day. As you can see right here, this is a pretty wide shot of Market Street as it tilts upwards and moves through the city. You can see people have just filled the streets, and this is what it looks like for blocks and blocks and blocks. As we zoom out right there, you can see just the significance of how many people are here on this historic day where people are marching through San Francisco and communities all across the nation. What you're looking at here is the middle of about a 2-mile march from Dolores Park to Civic Center Plaza. Protesters are making their way through the city where they will descend upon Civic Center Plaza to continue to make their voices heard on this so-called No King's Day of demonstrations. San Francisco, one of just the many major cities all across the country where you are seeing scenes like this play out in real time. All of these people protesting the Trump administration, not just one policy as we saw over the course of the last week with the immigration raids that sparked protests in Los Angeles and elsewhere, but as you've heard from some of the people who've shown up to these protests today, and as you've heard from some of the event organizers, this had been on the books for a while. Another live look right here. As you can see, people walking through the streets of San Francisco, waving flags. At this point, we do not see any kind of confrontations or anything that would indicate that this has been anything but peaceful. Where they are walking right there, that appears to be Market Street, right where people get off the highway as they enter into the city. You can see the California Highway Patrol has blocked off the freeway so people can continue to exercise their First Amendment right in a peaceful way and in a safe way. These protesters will continue to make their way through the city and end up at Civic Center Plaza. We'll have a live report from Civic Center Plaza coming up in just a little bit with our Sarah Donchie, who is on the ground there in San Francisco. But one more look at this image as protesters make their way through the streets of San Francisco, the city by the bay, on this historic No King's Day. Stay with us. Welcome back. Here is a live look at what appears to be San Francisco on this Saturday afternoon as the No Kings protest continues to unfold here in our backyard and in communities all across the country. This live picture just giving you a sense of the scale of how many people showed up on a Saturday afternoon to participate in this No Kings demonstration. As we zoom out right there, that just shows you just a hint of the scale of this protest. That's Civic Center Plaza. More people are on the way there. But this all started with a week of protests surrounding immigration policy coming from the Trump administration. So we need to talk a little bit about that now. So let's get over to USF law professor Bill Ong-Hing. He's going to join us live this afternoon. Professor Ong-Hing, great to see you. Thanks for being with us. Let's go back to where this began. It was last week.
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, let me just say it's remarkable how many folks are out there in the street in San Francisco, and God bless them. And I'm just so pleased to see that. Yes, this started when it turns out that the immigration and customs enforcement agents, ICE agents, were showing up at immigration courts and arresting people who were showing up at their hearings. Now, listeners and viewers might think, well, that's not unusual, right? That ICE agents show up at an immigration court. Well, in fact, it is very unusual because usually the only ICE personnel at an immigration court is the prosecutor. But instead, ICE agents were coming in and arresting people who were just following orders, that they were following the rules, applying for asylum and appearing at their immigration hearings. And then they were being taken into custody. And the community heard about it, and the rapid response attorneys and volunteers moved into action, and this got people really upset. And this is also what fomented much of the activity in Los Angeles, was ICE agents going into immigration courts and arresting people who were only following the rules.
So Professor Ong-Hing, a lot has changed in the 6 or so days since that all unfolded. We've seen a reversal, or at least a step back from the Trump administration about who they are now going to enforce some of these immigration actions with. With that, do you see that as a result of some of the protests that we have seen, or is that coming from a different spot?
I think it's coming from a slightly different spot. I don't think it's because of the protests, although, of course, we don't know what's going through the minds of Stephen Miller and his group. But the fact that the administration is saying that they're not going to enforce in farms and in restaurants and those kinds of things, that's definitely a step forward. But I think that may be more a result of the pressure from agribusiness and from business owners whose businesses are in jeopardy because their workers are being disappeared and their workers are afraid to show up for work. And I think that was a result more of objection from business owners.
And Professor Ong-Hing, finally this afternoon, you know, I understand you're also the director of the Immigration and Deportation Defense Clinic. You know, for somebody who is watching this at home, they're seeing these amazing images out of San Francisco with the streets packed. Somebody who might have been a little bit fearful of going about their daily life, what would you want that person to think when they see these images?
Well, I think they should be grateful that there are so many allies that they have, and non-citizens should understand that they have rights, even as non-citizens. And I still would be a little bit cautious in the sense of just reporting to ICE. If they're being instructed to report to ICE, they should check in. They should call rapid response numbers and get a consultation with an immigration expert to find out exactly what their options are.
Professor Bill Ong-Hing, we appreciate the expertise today. Thank you for that. We're going to send it to a quick break now, and we're going to give you a live look at San Francisco's Civic Center. Right there, as you can see, the people are beginning to pack that area as they've made their way from and continue to make their way through the streets of San Francisco down Market Street. You see that tent starting to go up there in the corner of your screen. We're going to have a live report when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, here is a live look at San Francisco's Civic Center Plaza, where thousands of protesters are on their way through the streets of the city to convene for what will be the finale of the No Kings protest unfolding in San Francisco. This is just one of the numerous protests that are these No Kings protests happening in the Bay Area, and one of the thousands happening all across the country. Millions of people coming together today in a nationwide day of protest against the Trump administration and the Trump administration's policies. Now, this may have been in response in the last couple of days to some of the immigration raids, but this protest has been on the books for some time now, and that was kind of just the icing on the cake there. Let's head on over to San Jose now, where our John Ramos joins us live. He has been out there at one of the protests. And John, I know you had mentioned just a moment ago that this was really a historic moment, something you hadn't seen in a long time. Bring us into the moment for us.
I think the people here feel that this is a historic moment, and they feel like it's a pivotal moment, honestly. I'm in St. James Park in downtown San Jose, about a block from City Hall. This place is now full of people. They were expecting about 6,000. They think now it's going to be closer to 10 or more, 1,000 people. They just were showing up. People that when you talk to people, they say, I've never been on protest, or I very rarely been on protest, or I was in protest when I was, in the 1960s or 70s. Everyone is out for this. And so let me give you a sense of what we're looking at here. I got to switch over. So as you can see, the park is pretty much full of people. And where they a little earlier they were playing music, and then they did a march that went kind of around by City Hall. Now they've all gathered back here at the park, and they're having various people come up and speak. And it's just you can just see it. I mean, there are various levels of anger, judging from the signs and the way people are responding. But it does feel like everyone here has some level of are a bit dismayed by what they see the country becoming, and they're out here to express that. And honestly, it does feel like something I haven't seen. I'm old enough to actually remember. I was a kid, but I remember what it looked like back when the Vietnam War was being protested at the end there. And that was the reason the war ended, was because people came out in big enough numbers, large enough numbers, and it became clear that everyone was, or so many people in the country, not just radical dissidents, were feeling this. So that may be what we're seeing is a tipping point in the country. I don't know, because no one knows. This was not really done by popular. It was Donald Trump was elected by vote, but there's a lot of Americans are deeply split over how the country is running right now, and we're seeing a real loggerheads in our nation. So anyway, this is Go ahead.
I was just going to mention, when you just panned over to the right a little bit, just looking, you can really see people as far as meets the eye. That's in the middle of downtown San Jose. The concentration of people there. Have you ever been at a protest in San Jose that has been this dense, this packed with people?
Before, there were protests during Black Lives Matter. There's been protests for various things. But this one is different, because this doesn't feel, at least to the people here, when you talk to them, it doesn't feel like this is about one particular issue. There are people here who are, this is Pride Month, and so there's people here that are concerned about the way that, the LGBTQ community is being treated. There are people here, certainly a lot of people here, regarding immigration, because this is a really, diverse community. But to see all these folks here, they all seem like they're here for kind of a united purpose, and that is they feel that they're standing up for the country, and that this is a serious time, and a time when people need to stand up. So it's not just about one issue. It feels like out here, it's about it's not just about individual issues. It is about one issue, and that is the issue of where the country is going, and people feel now like they have to do something to try and stand up to fight it.
John Ramos live for us in San Jose. We'll check back in just a little bit. Thank you for your reporting there, John. As John just mentioned, it's not one individual issue outside of the overarching issue that has brought these people together. And that's what we saw in Oakland with Kevin Coe earlier as well. He was mentioning how there were some people there for reasons of immigration. There were other people there for reasons of gay rights. There were people there for a variety of reasons, some for just the way that they feel the country, the direction the country is moving in. So let's get right back out live to Kevin Coe in Oakland.
With the
A
kiddo.
little bit different of the scene there because it looks like you've got somebody to talk to right now. You were talking about families earlier. Let's talk, Kevin. Who are we talking with and why are they here?
Okay. So why do you think we're here?
Yeah, last time I checked in with you, you were asking about families, right? So here, I wanted to bring one right here to you. Sir, can I get your name real quick?
Sure, my name is Tim Rodolfi. This is my Tim Rodolfi. This is my son Solomon Rodolfi. He's a student at Oxford Elementary School in Berkeley, California. And we're here as a family, just celebrating this pretty amazing day. Trying to teach Solomon what to do when he sees things that are happening that he should stand up for. And seeing a lot of people, a lot of concerns, and modeling what it's like to be in a free country, having a good time. Tons of families out here, people singing, people dancing, even cameras.
Well, sir, I was going to ask you a question, but you did it all there for me, so I appreciate it. Do you mind if I ask Solomon one thing? Solomon? Hey, how you doing? I'm Kevin. What do you think so far?
I don't know.
What do you think about the amount of people? Big crowd, huh?
It's a lot.
Solomon, thank you. I appreciate it for your time. Tip, thank you as well.
Have a good one. Be safe out there.
You too. Max, I just wanted to give you that perspective because you were asking earlier about different people and different families. And I think every single person here that I've spoken to today, while they are under this umbrella of No Kings, they are all here for various reasons. People earlier bringing up Senator Alex Padilla, other people bringing up the immigration rights protest that happened earlier this week as well. I want to set the scene for you here real quick. We are right here on 8th Street. This is one of the many vegetable stands right in front of a seafood market, Fang Market specifically. You see these workers who have been working here all day on 8th Street, and this march, thousands of people taking over. These folks have actually been high-fiving some of these marchers as they go by, and I tried to talk to one of the workers. He said no on camera, but he did tell me no kings. So these workers are well aware of what's going on. We haven't seen anything in terms of vandalism, property damage, none of that. This is a very mild-mannered crowd who are very, very intentional on exercising their First Amendment right here for a variety of reasons. I do also want to mention traffic control. We haven't seen much OPD. We saw a chopper up ahead earlier in the show too. Earlier in the stream, we saw a few plainclothes officers in unmarked cars, right? What I've noticed here in terms of traffic control, it's the organizers. There aren't any police officers blocking off streets. Traffic appears to be going normally on certain streets like Franklin, which are perpendicular to 8th Street. Those are all just being blocked by cyclists in yellow vests, those safety marshals, the safety ambassadors that we were pointing out earlier too. This is a massive crowd, Max. Thousands and thousands, all heading to Frank Ogawa Plaza right now.
And Kevin, it looks like the crowd slowed down a little bit. In the beginning, there was some pace with the march that was going on, but it just, so many people, if they just come together, and now it's really just like moving like through like a bunch of sardines in a can.
Yeah. Well, I would say as all of these marches go, and all the marches I've covered for weeks here, what happens is the people at the front, there's a big pickup truck in the front, big speakers, leading chants, playing music. That pickup truck will occasionally stop in certain intersections. That could be a combination of traffic control needing to be done, but also to go through some chants and make their message clear right here in the middle of Chinatown.
Kevin Coe live for us in Oakland. We appreciate that update. Let's now switch gears and head on back across the bay. Head on over to San Francisco where we find our Sarah Donchi live at Civic Center Plaza. Sarah, the scene has changed immensely, I take it, in the last half hour since we last checked in.
Yeah, you know, Max, a lot of people have started to show up. So we had the march that began somewhere along 20th and Dolores or so, down the hill, down all the way to Market, and then taking the turn down here to Civic Center. There are so many people. I think really the story of the day has been the crowd size here. Just easily thousands and thousands of people. Again, as with earlier, we're on the ground, so it's really hard to get a sense of exactly how many people that we've seen. But there are thousands and thousands of people here, and people who say that they've come from all parts of the Bay Area. We haven't spoken with anyone who's traveled really beyond that, but it's just so difficult to get everyone's stories when there are so many people here to share. And there's a real willingness to talk to us out here. People say they want to tell us why they are here and the issue that forced them out here. I will say in my career covering protests, that is not always the case, but people were really, really eager to explain what brought them out today to downtown San Francisco. Lots of issues really on the table here, lots of signs and people turning up in big, big numbers. Really, the crowds that we're seeing sort of span the gamut when it comes to demographics, all ages and ethnicities. We've seen lots of families, as Kevin Coe reported in Oakland. People are bringing out their kids. We've seen, people of all abilities. It just really, really diverse crowd out here in San Francisco. And we talked to some folks earlier, and I really tried to ask each of them about the particular issue that drove them to attend this rally. Here's what they had to say.
Well, I just feel like the way that they're handling ICE is handling themselves is totally un-American. I think we have to have due process, and our Secretary Nunn doesn't even know what habeas corpus means, so it's kind of a tragedy. People on the street, people fighting each other. I mean, this is not the America that I grew up in. I'm in my 60s, so I'd like to see it back to a normal temperature, and people being civil to each other and not lying, and everything you hear is a lie, and everyone believes the lies. It's just like lie after lie that's what we have to deal with.
Interestingly, I also talked to a veteran. She said she served with the United States Air Force and had multiple deployments. She was draped in the American flag, and she said she really wanted to make her message and her voice heard as a veteran, as someone who served her country. Let's listen to what she had to say to us earlier today.
Our rights are at risk, just like everybody else's. They're threatening to cut our health care and our support and SNAP benefits that working airmen need to be able to support their family. And it's just crazy.
I find it interesting because I think the president has always espoused that veterans are on his side. And the assumption is that people who served in the military tend to lean right. Do you think that's true, or what has your experience been?
I do think that is true. I do think that a lot of veterans and law enforcement supported MAGA and supported that movement. I do think that there is a shift in that belief system, and veterans are starting to understand that we are all human beings and we all have a right to exist, and the things that we stood for. I volunteered to die for my country. I volunteered, and that needs to be respected, and we don't feel respected right now by this administration.
We were talking earlier, Max, about this sense of patriotism, this real feeling of patriotism here at this rally today that people really have been telling us and kind of expressing, the speakers, that they love this country, that this is a country that they feel proud of, but that they don't recognize right now. And, even people as we're talking are kind of cheering that on, because that really does seem to be the message here, that people are here because they love the United States, but that they don't recognize it and they want to see change in some of the policies and the practices that we're seeing with the current administration. So, I think people are obviously quite upset with the president who are attending this rally, but it isn't always sort of this feeling of anger and frustration. It's more of a feeling of pride and perhaps even a feeling of optimism when you talk about the community that's here and the people who are showing up in huge, huge numbers to get out all of these messages, Max. I mean, there are so many different things that people are talking about. Immigration, obviously human rights of people who are living in Gaza. We've seen people talking about trans rights, gay and queer rights. It really runs the gamut when it comes to the issues that motivated people to come here. It really does go beyond this sort of no kings message that this was organized under today.
Packed. When we see people walking 2 miles, and I know it's a little bit hard to hear out there, do you think this is an inflection point for the country?
I've covered a lot of protests, and I have actually been talking to people in my own life and people that I see out here, asking them that question: does this moment feel different than some of the other moments that we've seen over the course, not just of this Trump administration, but over the last several years? And I think I get different answers. I think there does seem to be a broader frustration this time around with sort of the variety of issues and complaints or about the state of politics in this country more generally. So that feels a little bit different, whereas with the Women's March, people were out for a very specific issue. And this just feels, Max, to be sort of under a broader umbrella. And that, to me, is striking. That's what feels different to me. But of course, people have very different opinions. I think a lot of people will tell you that they feel we are at the brink of or in the middle of a constitutional crisis. It depends on who you talk to out here. But I do think that this feels like an important moment for a lot of the people that we have talked to out here today.
Sarah, we've been with you for about an hour and 40 minutes almost at this point since this march start. Are people still filing in? Are people going to be filing in for some time?
It's hard to say because we are just in. Okay, let me show you where we are, by the way, of Civic Center. So we are just to the right of the stage here at the steps of City Hall. It's hard to say because this is sort of closer to the stage than to the street, like Civic Center Plaza at the edge where people are starting to file in. But it does feel like the crowd has actually gotten bigger here. It's possible that people are still filing in only because we actually saw people on the train earlier who weren't a part of the march at all, who were coming from different parts of San Francisco to show up. So even people who actually didn't march from Dolores seem to be showing up here. We talked to a guy earlier who lives in the East Bay, and he came here because he was working in San Francisco and he got off work or whatever he did and came out here. So just because, the march may be over, or there are people who are coming here who were not even a part of that initial gathering. So yes, it's possible that there are more people showing up from all kinds of places, Max.
We know the event's scheduled to wrap at some point this afternoon. Likely will go well beyond that. Sarah Donchi live for us in San Francisco at Civic Center Plaza. Thank you for your reporting there. We'll check back in just a little bit. Now let's switch gears and head on over to break. Give you a couple more images just of people at various protests throughout the Bay Area today. This is right where Sarah was standing earlier. And this right here is an image from Ocean Beach, I believe it is. And that, as you can see, protesters formed what appears to be human letters saying "No King" in the shape of a pentagon, it looks like, right there along Ocean Beach and the Great Highway there. American flag, too. That's a theme that we have seen throughout the entirety of these protests, that American flag all over the place. And now we'll send you to break with another look from our chopper above San Francisco's Market Street as No Kings protests continue throughout the region and the country. Millions of people hoping to make their voices heard. Stay with us. Back. Here is another look from our chopper at just a little while ago before the crowd really filled in to Civic Center Plaza in San Francisco on this historic day of the so-called No Kings protest and demonstration all throughout the country. This is not the only place where people are trying to make their voices heard and share their discontent with the current administration. Let's head on up to the North Bay now, where our Suji Nam is going to check back in with us once again from a pretty noisy demonstration there in San Rafael. Suji, set the scene for us a little bit.
Yeah, Max, I'm here along 4th Street in downtown San Rafael. We're hitting around nearly 2 hours so far here along downtown. From my previous reports, there were a lot more people out there, but the crowd has dwindled down just a little bit, but it's still a mighty crowd out here as people are waving their signs. And that group over there has been chanting straight on for 2 hours, which is very impressive considering it's a little bit warm now. I'm going to cross the street now to give you a look on this side. Again, we're getting a lot of families still out here, people holding these signs and cheering on. And of course, for the people who cannot make it out here, you're getting a lot of people who are showing their solidarity by honking as they're driving through. But compared to an hour to now, definitely the crowd has gotten a little smaller than before. But still, it's a mighty crowd out here, Max, as they're cheering on and showing their solidarity for each other.
And Suji, if you can pan over to your right a little bit, I just saw an image that really jumped out to me a little bit more. Keep on going. There's a woman who has a sign with a butterfly on it. There it is, just off right in the middle of your screen. Oh, now somebody just popped their head out right in front. But, you know, when we go to protests and we cover things like this, it's not every day you see signs of peacefulness like that butterfly. A woman had flowers there. Can you walk me through some of the I guess, the symbols that you have seen throughout your hour there?
Yes. Yep, I found her. The sign right here, it says, the only orange monarch we want and no kings. Did you make this butterfly? Did you make this poster yourself?
Yeah, yes, I did.
What was your reasoning behind it?
Oh, I'm not really good at...
No worries. Well, we want to say we saw your sign and we thought that was very impactful. So thank you for being out here today. Well, there's some other signs here, Max. It says, we paid $96.7 billion in taxes. Hey, Trump, how much did you pay? It says here, take Trump out of office. And right here it says, ICE, no ICE, down with lies.
Dogs for democracy.
Tell me why you're out here today.
I had to do something. I can't expect the forces that hold these people accountable to do everything. And I realized I needed to do something. So that's why I'm here.
And my last question for you, ma'am, is seeing all your fellow neighbors out here, you guys are all standing in unison. Tell me how you're feeling.
I'm feeling optimistic and celebratory and empowered. I feel like getting out of my house and not hiding was the step I had to take. I feel optimistic in this moment. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Stay safe out here. Thank you again. But again, Max, like you mentioned, there are a lot of signs out here. And it's not just signs that show solidarity for immigrants and immigrant rights. I've seen signs where people are fighting for veteran affairs. People are fighting for postal workers, just health rights. I saw some asking to stop the budget cuts for the science educational fields. I mean, it's just a wide range of people showing their support. Again, a smaller but mighty crowd here in downtown San Rafael, Max.
Suji Nam live for us in San Rafael. Looks like it's starting to dwindle just a little bit, but if we head on over the Golden Gate Bridge and into San Francisco, you're going to see a totally different picture. That's where Sarah Donchi is. She's been there for a couple of hours now. Sarah, set the scene for us in San Francisco live at Civic Center Plaza.
Well, Max, still a lot of people out here right now, thousands and thousands of people from what we've seen. People are kind of coming and going, as you can see. So we repositioned now so that we're on the outskirts of the crowd just to get you a better sense of what things look like here. It does look like it's starting to thin out maybe a little bit in some places, but people are kind of coming and going. Obviously, that march earlier ended here, and so the majority of people kind of got here around the same time, but we've seen people coming and going. Obviously, Civic Center, no accident. This is a huge gathering spot for people, and of course, very convenient for public transit. Both BART and Muni let off just steps away from this location here. But a lot of people coming and going from the streets, just the general area here. We've been talking to people all afternoon about what brought them out here, and really all of the reporters, as you've heard, heard across the Bay Area have made similar points about the fact that there are a number of issues that people are sort of speaking to out here today. So many signs. We've actually seen a lot of people dressed up too. We just walked by somebody who had what looked like a kind of mattress, who was dressed as the Constitution, and we saw somebody dressed up as a founding father, for example. So people are kind of having fun with this a little bit. And a couple of people, notably, who were taking public transit, they were dressed as kings and queens. So people are kind of having fun with it. It's been a relatively upbeat atmosphere. We have someone with a rooster.
No, this is a
chicken.
loco.
Okay, tell me about why you came out today.
Because I think it's really important for all of us to show up what's happening in our democracy. It's under attack, and what's happened with Senator Padilla and with our immigrants who are hardworking, good people. And it's just turning into an authoritarian government, and we can't stand for that.
How does this compare to perhaps if you've been to other protests in the Bay Area, to other events that you've been to here?
Oh, I think there's just a huge outpouring today. I mean, there was a big outpouring right after he was elected, but this is massive. It took me a half hour to get out of Dolores Park, to get onto the street, to get down here.
Where did you come from? Where do you live, and what's your story?
I actually split my time between here and the Oregon coast. If I was up there, my little town of Florence, Oregon is having a protest today, but I happen to be down here, so I came down here to join in.
Well, it's interesting that you've showed up, because we're talking about the creativity we've seen here today. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. All right, Max, back to you in the studio.
All righty, Sarah Nanchi live for us there at Civic Center Plaza. We'll check in just a little bit. For those of you at home, stay with us. We've got a lot more on this No Kings protest coming up after this quick break. You're looking at video of protesters marching through San Francisco, making their way down Market Street. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, we are in the midst of live coverage of the No Kings protests all throughout the Bay Area and beyond on this historic day in this country. This is a shot of Civic Center Plaza where you can see people gathered, and these people all came from Dolores Park and marched through San Francisco. San Francisco, just one of the many places that saw thousands of people come together, united in protest against the Trump administration today. It's also happened in Sacramento at California's Capitol today. So let's head on up to Nina Burns live with our sister station, CBS News Sacramento. Nina, it looks like things are probably thinned out by now, but give us kind of a scene setter of what unfolded today in California's Capitol.
You would be surprised because things really have not thinned out. They've just moved away from the Capitol. Right now we're on Capitol Street and Tower Bridge is behind me. They were waiting for a minute and it appears they finally did break over. CHP attempted to try to stop them, but currently they are walking over that bridge. And that happened after they attempted to get on the I-5, but CHP had multiple cars lined up waiting for them and ended up blocking them. So they pivoted and now they're on this bridge. We see other protesters who did not make that slot there once they put down those railings, and CHP is gathered here as well. But we looked just moments ago over at I-5 and there are about 12 different CHP cars, officers ready in gear to stop protesters from entering the highway. Right now the highway is incredibly busy. Nothing has been blocked off, but and we're getting word right now that they appear to be trying to make the protesters turn around on this bridge, but that's not working out. These cars, as you can see, are stuck on the bridge as they make it through. We just saw 2 more protesters get by going under that railing, but CHP is doing their best to stop it. But again, I know you're talking about things thinning out, but it's honestly just moved. As we know, the permit only went to 1 p.m. at the Capitol, so they were removed from there, and now they are marching down Sacramento. We're going to try to get over by the bridge and see exactly what's going on, but we will keep you updated as we learn more.
Totally fine. You can walk. I just wanted to ask you a question as you go, and that's totally fine. Keep on moving in that direction. But for our viewers here in the Bay Area, what is the significance of them being right there on that bridge?
So, first of all, let's just take a look right here that I have to make this very clear. This was not their first option. Their first option was to go to I-5, and that's where we followed them. This entire crowd made their way, and CHP beat them to it. What they didn't beat them to is this bridge. But I mean, the significance here, I mean, just look at this. They are overlooking right now the highway. They are looking down. They are chanting. They are still crossing, as you just saw. 2 more with signs got through. CHP is doing their best. Now cars are eagerly trying to get out. I mean, it is quite chaotic. The other streets downtown right now, as behind us right now, it appears they might be closing off Capitol Street to stop more protesters and other cars from being able to come. CHP just moved away, and it looks like right now, we can see from the Capitol building over here, more crowds are headed this way. They're about 4 blocks out, but they are marching in this direction. We can't see I-5 right now, but like I said, there are still protesters standing by trying to pass CHP.
Thousands of protesters, I understand, in Sacramento today as this unfolded. Is this the first time, the first thing that we've seen where there's been a little bit of a tense moment?
All day it has been incredibly peaceful, and even now, besides going on the streets, there has been no violence. There has been no problems with law enforcement from what we can see, besides them telling to, hey, get on the sidewalks, please don't get on the bridge, please don't try to attempt to go on the highway. It has been incredibly peaceful between all parts. There has not been any violence. It has just been protesting. Again, if they keep blocking roadways, that could escalate. But for right now, it appears they're letting them go by and just trying to stop them before they continue to get on the highway.
Nina Burns live for us in Sacramento. We appreciate the coverage there. Be safe and head on over there and see what else you can find. We'd like to check back in just a little bit. Let's bring you a little bit closer home now, where our Kevin Coe remains live in Oakland. And Kevin, it looks like you have changed locations once again. It's been tough to follow your path throughout the entirety of this afternoon. Where are you now? Set the scene for us one more time.
Yeah, we took a right turn on 8th. We're currently on Broadway, but something I want to point out first, let's just show you this crowd. Max, thousands on thousands of marchers here descending on downtown Oakland. And I can tell you, we have been just trying to gauge just how far this march goes. It's impossible at this point, and we've been trying to track this for about 20 minutes now, just the sheer number of people that are out here. You see, again, a plethora of causes, which we want to talk about because there's so many signs and different reasons people are here. But I want to show you something that we noticed right here. This is Sacred Tattoo here on Broadway. You see that they actually have a table set up here, big sign that says "No Kings," and they have all this candy that they're giving to protesters as they walk by. It's kind of like when you're at a marathon, right? They have all this water with little cups ready to go, hydrating folks as they come by. And so we had to figure out what's going on here. I'm here with the shop owner, Owe.
Hey, how you doing? Yes,
Owe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, definitely.
Why are you doing this?
To give back to the community. It's what we need to do, right? Come in the community and help out everybody, and just it's the easiest way to rehydrate people.
Yeah, it's such a stark contrast from what we've seen on some news reports, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where some business owners are like, we're worried about vandalism, property damage. You went the other way, and you're like, no, protesters are not only welcome, you're giving them water and candy as they go by.
Well, they need all the substance they need to get to Frank Gotwa, right? So it's just like, why not? Give them water. I mean, it's all good. Yeah. It's something we could do to help everybody out.
And the No Kings sign, I can't help but notice it on the table.
Oh, yeah.
What made you, I guess this is a form of protest yourself, right? You're not marching here, but you got this set up for them.
So this was actually, she's a union rep for Salient, AFL-CIO right there. So she, one of her colleagues brought by some posters, so we're just showing support.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of union representation out here as well.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Hell
Wait, thank you so much. Appreciate you for your time.
Thank you very
Also, we love the Valkyries flag here on KPIL. Yeah, so the tone out here, Max, I can tell you, it's very high spirits here. But again, I feel really weird saying that because people here are extremely upset with the state of the country, the state of the White House, the presidency, and everything that's been happening this week with immigration rights and increased ICE activity. But in terms of what you would typically think of unrest, none of that happening here. Very high spirits.
Kevin Coe, always finding the humanity in all of these stories and apologizing. Very sweet of you there. Always finding the people and just the smiles there. Kevin, thank you for that. So I want to stay there with you just for one moment. So this started with really, passionate words from Oakland's new mayor, Barbara Lee, right at 12:45 when this all began. You've talked to families, you've talked to people like this business owner there who's helpful and happy to do his part to keep people hydrated and give them a little bit of sustenance. That all being said, have you heard one thing from anybody in particular that really jumped out at you from this coverage today?
Hard to say. I think what jumps out to me more is you can pinpoint a lot of specific issues that people may be out here for. You heard from the shop owner there, the tattoo shop owner, Owe, their signs there, it's part of union representation, right? We have seen union members out here with everything that's happened down in Southern California with immigration rights, but we've also seen a lot of families. I think what sticks out to me is how many issues are fitting under this singular umbrella of No King's Day, because all of these people are able to find that connection, and that connection to them, they're seeing democracy falter. Max?
That singular issue with so many things underneath that umbrella, that does seem to be the theme of the day. Kevin Coe, thank you for that reporting. And let's take that same theme and bring it back to San Francisco, where we can go live to Sarah Donchich. She has been talking to people at Civic Center Plaza. And Sarah, that's been a theme that you've really come across all throughout the day. If you can even hear me over that drum beat that I can hear pretty loudly, set the scene for us now with the tone there at Civic Center Plaza.
Yeah, so the drums are taking over. I'll show you where that's coming from, actually. We've had so many people who are dressed up and really sort of getting into the spirit of this protest. We've seen people, sort of participating in all kinds of ways beyond just the traditional signs. But over the last 15 minutes or so, we've kind of moved to the outskirts of Civic Center Plaza. This is where people were streaming in earlier from the march that began at Mission Dolores Park. People are starting to thin out a little bit, Max. We're noticing some people are starting to leave here. We had a stage set up closer to the stairs of City Hall, and people were speaking there a bit earlier, but now people are starting to sort of mingle and talk to each other. We've seen a lot of people who are checking out different signs. Basically, pretty much a lot of the people who are here are kind of here to get out their particular message, whatever that may be. We've had signs that said Amtrak workers against Trump, people saying support Ukraine and not Russia, lots of immigration signs, a lot of melt ice signs. That's what we've seen. People speaking out on behalf of their friends and family who are not documented here in this country. Somebody dressed as the Grim Reaper who has a sign that says "Death to False News." Really, people have a variety of messages out here today. But I would say over the course of the last 15, 20 minutes or so, max, people have started to stream out of Civic Center Plaza. We'll see how long people stay out here for. I think a lot of people who are parked over here on the lawn are determined to stay here for a little bit longer. But this did start earlier this morning. It's gone on for several hours. So it really remains to be seen how long this will last, or if this will sort of translate into any other kind of demonstration. But right now, high spirits. People have been really eager to talk to us and share their personal stories about why they're here, share their signs and their sort of creativity in presenting some of the issues that brought them out here, and relatively calm here today, Max.
Sarah, I noticed a lot of smiles of people behind you, and Kevin was just alluding to that a moment ago. It almost feels weird to be smiling at an event like this because people are truly out here for reasons of they're scared and they want to see major change. Just seeing that and feeling that being out there today, was that a little tough to navigate almost?
Yeah, Max, that was different. That is definitely different from some of the events and coverage that I've done of other protests. And we're going to walk this way a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm talking about the people who are still gathered over here. But yes, absolutely. Normally when people are this outraged about so many issues, you kind of can feel the tension and you can feel the frustration and the anger. The vast majority of people that we've interfaced with today really were not sort of giving off that energy. Of course, people take these issues incredibly seriously. A lot of people were saying they feel that this is a matter of life and death, that democracy is at stake. People impassioned about their message of free Palestine and an end to the war in Gaza. That was one of the issues that people felt really strongly about, but largely very sort of positive, uplifting vibes. Even as you mentioned, people are out here for a variety of reasons that they take incredibly seriously, but this really sort of had a community feel today, relatively uplifting vibes here in downtown San Francisco, Max.
Sarah Donchi live for us at San Francisco Civic Center Plaza as that protest continues, but does begin to thin out just a little bit. Again, that is just one of the many protests all across the country that happened today in major cities and smaller cities and communities all throughout the country. Scenes like that playing out in Boston and Philadelphia, New York, and so many other major cities. Images like this, though, what you're looking at right here, will stay a part of history, really, here in San Francisco, as thousands and thousands of people descended upon Market Street from Dolores Park, making their way through the city and ending up there at Civic Center Plaza. Stay with us. More to come after the break. Welcome back to our live coverage of the No Kings protest, streaming live on CBS News Bay Area. What you're looking at is what was the human chain forming this No King display on Ocean Beach. This all happened before the day really took its course today. And one of the things that really set the tone for the various protests, at least at one of the protests in Oakland today, was Mayor Barbara Lee. And this is what she had to say before everybody packed the Oakland streets and marched through downtown Oakland. Take a listen. Lee, among other speakers, really set the tone and shared the message that we've heard from so many different people today, whether they were elected officials who showed up at these rallies or if they were people who just showed up and wanted to make their voice heard. It wasn't one particular issue that they wanted to protest. It's the overarching theme. Everybody was coming out for their own individual reason, but they all tied together in that theme that they call the No Kings theme. So plenty of protests all throughout the Bay Area and beyond. And right now, we're going to give you a live look now and head on over in the East Bay to Walnut Creek. This is a look at the scene there. As you can see, people marching through the downtown area like we've seen in so many other communities all throughout the Bay on this No Kings Day protest. People coming together with American flags, other kinds of signs, many of which are denouncing the Trump administration and its policies, and a lot of people with other flags there. We've seen pride flags like we just saw right there. And a lot of cars coming by who maybe are people who did not necessarily come to show up but wanted to become a part of it and honking their horns in solidarity with the people there. You can just listen in for a moment and kind of feel the emotion there. It's a sense of passion but not high tension. As both Sarah and Kevin were mentioning, people are coming out to these communities today to protest very serious things. Things that are not just near and dear to their hearts, but things that scare people. Things that make people feel concerned about the future of the country and the direction that it is moving in, according to their interpretation of that. And with that, you can feel that there's still this feeling of positivity almost in the air. But getting into this spot took some time. There were a lot of preps that went into this. So let's get on over to Kevin Coe, who gives an explanation of that.
Some stores started protecting their windows earlier this week when anti-ICE protests turned violent in the city, resulting in dozens of arrests on back-to-back nights. But violence is something protest organizers tell us they're trying to avoid.
We're telling our attendees that, if you see any violence or any crime, keep moving, move away from it. Don't let that be part of our event.
Peter Hosey is an organizer with Indivisible, which is holding more than 50 No Kings Day protests across the Bay Area. The protests are designed to counter President Trump's military parade in D.C. to mark the Army's 250th birthday. The celebration also coincides with President Trump's 79th birthday and Flag Day.
Stand up to this would-wanna-be king in the White House who is trying to have a military parade on his birthday. We're here to say, no, America is a democracy. This is Flag Day, so we're going to have lots of flags. And we're going to celebrate our country and the democracy and the freedoms for which it stands.
Meantime, San Francisco city leaders say they're staffing up and coordinating with organizers of Saturday's protest. A march is expected to start at noon at Dolores Park and end at Civic Center Plaza. Mayor Daniel Lurie and law enforcement officials stressed they encourage people exercising their right to free speech, but laid out a zero-tolerance policy for violence.
I want to be crystal clear. If there is violence or destructive activity, law enforcement will step in. If you assault a police officer or break windows of a local business, you will be arrested.
Our vans and buses are ready to provide free ride shares straight to jail. Our jails are prepared to accept guests with no reservations. Destroying property, physically harming others, including federal authorities, are crimes, not First Amendment activities.
A similar message across the Bay in Oakland, where Chief Lloyd Mitchell says his department is ready for any unrest.
We have talked about it throughout this week with everything that's going on across the nation to make sure that, one, we provide the space for peaceful protests, but we're also not going to just allow the people that want to come into our community that are not part of our community to come in and cause damage to our homes.
Posey tells us organizers are taking their own steps to make sure their message isn't overshadowed by any bad actors.
We're going to be doing our part too. We're planning to have a safe, nonviolent event. We do have volunteers who we have trained to help keep it nonviolent, help defuse any situations involving agitators or whatnot.
And again, that was the message going into the day, and what we've seen is a day of peaceful protest here throughout the Bay Area communities. So let's get right back out to Kevin Coe, who joins us live from Oakland. And it looks like somebody's speaking there. Kevin, fill us in on what is going on this stage right here.
Awesome. Councilmember 5.
Yeah, we just heard from Oakland City Councilmember Carol Fife.
Please welcome.
1 second.
Sarah Ballou is a civil rights attorney and executive director.
Next up, civil rights attorney. You have about 7 to 8 official speakers that were listed on this event details page that Indivisible East Bay had put out, and they're going through those speakers right now. We have Frank Ogawa Plaza. What I can tell you, though, Max, when we're walking over here, there were thousands of people still in Chinatown making their way over here. What you cannot see around us, around this massive crowd of people, is the thousands of people just behind this massive crowd all around the plaza, right in front of City Hall. I want to give you guys a brief moment here. Looks like the speaker is about to begin.
Can you hear?
Assalamu alaikum, Oakland! Greetings of peace. Brothers and sisters, I am here today after a heartbreaking week. Last weekend, ICE terrorized. That's the word, terrorized thousands of people in our communities across the state, took them hostage, because that is what they are doing. Then we saw the Muslim ban go into effect. Then right here in San Francisco, 2 Palestinian visitors were detained for over 24 hours. And not permitted to come to our country to speak to Jews and Christians about life in apartheid Israel. And while all of that was happening, Israel opened a new front to its war, bombing civilian infrastructure in Iran. I am here today because we don't believe in kings. Not in Sacramento, not in Washington, D.C., and certainly not in Tel Aviv. We say no to monarchies abroad and dictatorships disguised as democracies here. We are here today because a man, many men, have supported the massacres of children, bombed refugee camps, and permitted the use of starvation as a weapon. And now they're all claiming royalty. We say no. We say no, kings. We are not subjects. We are not pawns. We will continue to resist ICE and CBP and the local police, and yes, genocide here and abroad. We will not roll out red carpets for killers. They tell us, be patient. They tell us, be peaceful. We know better. The civil rights movement wasn't polite. Liberation movements are never convenient. And let me be clear, justice is never given, it must be taken. So we are here to disrupt. We are here to say, no kings, no genocide, and no normalization. And to every politician enabling terrorism here and abroad, we are watching. We are organizing. Whether you're in the White House or in Tel Aviv, you either stand for justice or you don't. Oakland, I know our power. Let's keep raising our voices. Let's shut it down. And let's make sure they know we will not stop until all of us are free. Thank you.
So Max, you heard it there. Civil rights attorney there, bringing up a variety of topics, but also focusing on the travel ban. I know that's something that you've been checking in with a variety of these protests happening in the Bay Area in terms of what specifically is the message. What I can tell you is the congruent message that we have heard here so far is no kings, and it's a direct response to many actions that the Trump administration has taken. Travel ban, immigration rights, increased ICE activity, all of that is under the table here under that, again, no king's umbrella. Max?
California's 12 is home to the numerous diverse communities.
And let's give you another look. We just were getting a look there in Washington, D.C. as President Trump is getting ready to head out and make his way to that military parade in Washington, D.C. that is scheduled to begin later this afternoon. It is meant to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. And we're going to check back in with that in just a few moments. But first, we'll head to break. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. We're going to head right back out live to Oakland, where Representative Latifah Simon is at the podium. Let's listen in.
This is not a monarchy. This is not a monarchy. This, President, is a movement. And we, I want to be clear, are not your subjects. We, Bay Area, can you hear me? We, Bay Area, come lineage of Malcolm. We come from the lineage of Dolores Huerta. We are the children who built, I want to be clear, we are the children of those who built this country, who didn't survive to experience its democracy, and we are committed to creating a democracy where our children can live, love, and thrive. That's real. It's in our souls today. We say no. We say no to the crown. We are here because we remember. We remember the water hoses, brothers and sisters, in Birmingham. We remember the voting purges in Georgia. We remember the bullets in Jackson. We remember the brothers who fought from the cell blocks in Angola. We remember the hunger strikes at Pelican Bay, the mothers who waited and the fathers who wept. We remember, and we stand here today in their honor. You cannot scare a people. You cannot scare a people who have buried their martyrs and kept marching. You cannot shame a city that was raised by the Panthers. You cannot erase the history written with the blood of working people. They want us to forget. They want us to be polite. They want you to look away. They want you to treat fascism as commonplace, but that baby over there deserves better. But I tell you, thank you. You did not send me to Congress to make peace with tyranny. You sent me to Congress to fight with every minute, every bone that I have for the people who deserve it the most. For queer people, for disabled people, for the mother who is right now at Children's Hospital praying that her children have the Medicaid that they deserve to fight the beast of cancer. We are fighting for her. There will be no king on this soil. There will be no return to the days when power belonged only to the wealthy and to the white. We are building something, brothers and sisters, that is ancient and new. We are building a democracy for us right here. We were promised it. We were promised it. And I know my time is up, but let me tell you, Auntie. We are building a freedom that looks just like this. So let me tell you something. And I'm speaking to our administration. We are coming. We are coming with ballots. We are coming with protest. We are coming with policy. We are coming with the poetry of the truth. No crown will save you. No fear will break us. And we will never kneel to a tyrant. We will stand together. We will lock arms together and show them the beauty that is the Bay Area. We will show them the power and the love that we have for one another. We will show them that we honor the shopkeeper and the elder. We will show them that we will never throw trans children under the bus. We will show them that health care should be gotten when we deserve it and when we need it. We will show them that every single household in this county, to the Delaware, to the South, will be voting in 2026. We will show them who we are. East Bay, we move with love, dignity, and history. Si se puede, and salams. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was Representative Latifah Simon, Congressman for the California's 12th Congressional District. That was the seat previously held by Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee. A lot of connections here. We heard from Oakland's mayor earlier today as well. Things are actually still going on here, but that was one of the heaviest hitters in terms of speakers that were actually announced before this. But I do also want to mention the itinerary that Indivisible East Bay had put out. Barbara Lee was kind of a surprise special guest speaker there. We had heard that she may be speaking, but she wasn't on that list. So we're going to have to wait and see who else may be speaking here today.
Oakland. Thank you for that. Let's head on over across the bay now to San Francisco to Sarah Donchi live at Civic Center Plaza. Sarah, a contrasting picture, of course. There's no speakers there right now. Nonetheless, just kind of give us the summary of the day at Civic Center Plaza and in San Francisco, this No Kings protest.
Well, I think the story of the day was really twofold. One was the turnout, which was very impressive in terms of the number of people. I mean, tens of thousands of people easily in downtown San Francisco in the Mission District today. And the second was sort of the plurality of views and issues that people were here to sort of espouse as part of their particular individual reason for protesting. Earlier, we had some people here. There was this effigy to Donald Trump, President Trump, piñata. People obviously not hiding their feelings about the president here. People are certainly not happy with his administration. And we saw just a few minutes ago and back here right now, these signs, these netting signs, people are kind of working pretty hard to hold them up here. One of them says, "I am Senator Padilla." Of course, that is a reference to the incident that happened not that long ago with Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem's news conference, in which California Senator Alex Padilla was forcibly removed after he interrupted to ask her questions and was ultimately brought down to the ground. So just a lot of issues, certainly in the last couple of months. Gaza, what's happening to the Palestinians has been a big motivator for people to come out here today. Democracy in general, and people have certainly gotten really creative with their presentations. One of the signs here says, "It's so bad, introverts are here." We've talked to a lot of people who were dressed up, who said that it was really important for them to be out here today for a number of reasons, and people really did show up. They said that even people who were seasoned protesters here in the Bay Area, who've been to multiple protests over the course of 2 Trump administrations now, say that this protest seemed to be bigger in scale and meaning than some of the other protests, I guess simply because it ran the gamut of so many issues. People saying that they felt that this was an inflection point in terms of human rights and American democracy. So even though a lot of people have left, there are still several hundred people, if not a few thousand people down here at Civic Center today. No major issues, Max, that we saw or were made aware of. Police and fire department are present here, mostly on the perimeter. We actually did not really see them ingratiated into the crowd at all. They kind of stayed back. Pretty much what you see here is what you get now. A lot of people kind of staying here and hanging out, some of them partying, listening to music, having a good time, but nowhere near the crowds that we saw, Max, earlier today when thousands and thousands of people marched from Dolores Park to here at Civic Center Plaza.
2-mile walk from Dolores Park to Civic Center Plaza. That's quite a ways to go. You were out there throughout the rest of the day. Just, I'm curious to know, we saw families, we saw people who were, we'll say, of a more seasoned age. Was there any kind of feeling that people were in this together, maybe, that just kind of got them from point A to point B? I know it's a silly question, but.
Yeah, I would. No, it's not really. I would say yes. I think there was, that sort of sense of community here. Like you mentioned, there were people from all walks of life. I mean, people who were much older, babies that were here, people with their families. And you really got a sense that people sort of were happy to see each other. They were happy to share their signs and their messages. Again, as we've heard about other protests earlier in the day, it was almost, I wouldn't say a celebratory mood, but I would say people felt relatively energized to be around other people, and in some cases be around people who are very different from them, or who were really here to champion different causes and to bring light to different issues. So yes, Max, I would say that's an apt observation. People were really kind of glad to be together here in San Francisco. They were glad to be a part of something that I think a lot of people are describing now as a larger movement instead of just a couple of protests here and there. So yes, I think that was sort of a palpable, tangible feeling here, that you really got the sense that people were glad to be here, and there was this sort of spirit and sense of community that so many of these issues seem to be uniting people, really in protest of the current administration, Max.
Sarah Donchi live for us in San Francisco. We appreciate your reporting there. Let's head on now live to San Jose, where we find our John Ramos. He has been there throughout the course of the day. John, it looks like people still there behind you, quite a large group of people, but has it thinned out any since we checked in about an hour ago?
Yeah, we do. It has thinned out a bit. One group, they kind of split, and half of them went across the street and kind of formed their own little protest area. Aside from the people that are here gathered around the main speaking area. Let me walk closer to it. I got to change my camera angle here. Boom, there we go. I don't know if you can see this, but we still got like hundreds of people in. It's not 1,000 or so. Before this, there was up to I think they were projecting about 6,000, and they ended up thinking that there were maybe about 10,000 people showed up. So this was a lot of people coming. They're just now walking. They're just now breaking up. Another group, after they did some protesting, ended up walking and going off. So they're down by the downtown somewhere. I'm not sure where everybody ended up, but it has been quite a day out here. People have come out that say they've never protested before, or they haven't protested for years, and now they're looking. It seems like everybody's kind of united, at least in this community, on this one issue. The people that came out feel that while there are various issues, as you've heard all day, everybody here seems to feel that they're really kind of fighting for the soul of the country and the future of the country.
John,
go
ahead.
It's united people, and there's been young and old and angry people that said that they were protesters back in the 60s. So anyway, like I said, this seems like it's wrapping up now. They're saying their final goodbyes, but I think they were saying they thought this was a really successful outing. They did not expect this many people. Maybe they should have.
That seems to be one of the big themes of the day, John, is that people were surprised by how many people actually showed up, whether that was organizers or whether that was people in the community. You said you talked to people who had been, seasoned protesters, and you spoke to people who also had shown up for the very first time. Something we saw in Oakland and San Francisco, even up in the North Bay as well, that there were families there. There were people who brought their children who said they wanted their kids to learn how to speak up when something isn't right in their perspective. Did you see any of that in San Jose today?
Oh, sure. I mean, we've seen so much going on here, but this really is a fight for the country. I mean, they held an election, and Donald Trump was elected, and the people that support him look at it from that point of view. But the way he's governed has been so divisive that he's basically created two Americas. It feels that way. It felt that way ever since he took office. And the people here certainly feel that way. And so people are calling him, they're not saying we're in danger of a dictatorship. They're saying we're in the midst of it. And this is not an effort to prevent it. It's an effort to try and take the country back. And that's how they look at it. And there's a lot of people, especially here in the Bay Area, especially here in California, who feel that way. This doesn't end here today. And there's a lot of people, question in people's minds is, what's this going to be like for the next 3 years, 4 years, until there's another election? And there's some people that feel that even that may not be in the ultimate plan. It's hard to say, but when the country's being governed in this way, it leads to all kinds of imaginations on what could happen. And there's a lot of people that are really scared and angry, and they showed it out and put it out there today.
John Ramos live for us in San Jose. Thank you for your reporting there. We appreciate it. So we've shown you protests in San Francisco, San Jose, and in Oakland. Now we want to take you to some live pictures in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where preparations are underway as we speak for the military parade that is set to unfold there. That is going to be celebrating the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. Preps are still underway there, but we do know that President Trump will be there in attendance for that parade. The parade, as I mentioned, will be marking the Army's 250th birthday. This all coming as President Trump celebrates his 79th birthday as well. Authorities are saying the parade is going to feature thousands of soldiers, dozens of aircraft, and several tanks and other military vehicles as well. We're told they expect a crowd of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, to attend. Preparations have been underway all week in Washington, D.C., with tanks and other military equipment arriving and fencing going up in areas all around the White House and around the National Mall. The military parade, that is scheduled to begin at 3:30 our time. And we will bring you coverage of that as it unfolds. Stay with us. Welcome back. Just moments ago, President Trump departed the White House en route to the military parade, the U.S. Army parade celebrating 250th year. We will bring you that live at 3:30 right here, streaming on CBS News Bay Area. But for now, we're going to head on back to Oakland, where the No King's Day protest continues. Let's get on live out there as more speakers are at the podium. Our Kevin Coe is there in attendance. Kevin, tell us a little bit about who we're listening to right now.
Hey, Max, Dan Siegel, civil rights attorney. He actually just wrapped up his speech. Just listen to this applause.
Thank you, brother Dan Siegel.
Dan Siegel, again, he's a civil rights attorney. He was also a former school board member. He had a lot to say on a variety of topics, including he called for the end to white supremacy. I bring that up, Max, because we've talked about a lot of topics here. That is one I haven't heard specifically from a speaker before, but I have seen a lot of signs noting an end to white supremacy as well. I also want to mention, I do think we have 3 or 4 speakers still here. That includes a representative from the ACLU. We have a union member still ready to come speak up here. Someone from the Alameda County Unified Immigrant Rights Coalition as well. Right here, I want to give you a chance to just listen in. This is the MC for all the speakers.
Acknowledge trans and queer identities. In April 2025, the administration abruptly cut a $600,000 substance abuse recovery grant that the center was awarded. Other federal funding that they currently receive for programs to prevent HIV among youth and low-income people of color are at risk as well. The center's executive director, Joe Hawkins, is not able to be here today because he's trying to keep the center open. This cruelty must be stopped. Can we do that? No kings in America. And that means North, Central, and South. But let's give a warm round of applause welcoming to Lazara Firefox Allen, CEO of Pacific Center for Human Growth, the oldest queer org in the Bay Area.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful and pleased to be here today. I'm a born and bred Californian. I have massive love for this state and for the promise that this country holds, what it could represent, where we could get to. And that's what I'm in it for. Hate crimes are rising in the East Bay. If you haven't heard, they're rising in Berkeley. My community is terrified. My pronouns are they, them, and I identify under the trans umbrella. We are terrified right now, but we are showing up day to day, opening our doors, supporting our community members, mental health, peer support, whatever we can offer, space to feel safe in a world that feels hostile. We are launching Berkeley Pride this year as a street fair in August, and we want you all to be there. It's August 16th. Come, show up, show out, support the trans and queer community in the East Bay. We need you. We need each of you showing up and being part of the community. We stand with our impacted communities, our immigrant communities, our trans communities. We are all impacted, and the more we stand together, the stronger we are. We will not go back. We will not be closeted. We will not be forced to live a lie. There's nothing that this administration can do to make us less of who we are. Show up, look at yourself in the mirror, look at your community members, and stand in pride. It's Pride Month, people. How about we make it Pride all the time? So come to our centers, come to Oakland LGBTQ Center, come to Pacific Center, come volunteer, give us your time, give us your energy, bring your desire for liberation to the front lines, and volunteer to be part of the standing front that is protecting trans rights in the United States of America today. As much as the immigrant struggle, the trans struggle is the front line of civil rights in this moment in time. We need to show up with everything that we have to make it possible for our trans and queer community members to take part in sports, to run for office, and to show up and show out in their lives in every way that feels natural and authentic. So let's work toward our collective liberation. We can only get there together.
Thank you, Lazara. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives together. We are a gentle people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. One more time, strong. We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. What a beautiful harmony! So it is. All right, please welcome now Becca Horwitz. That's it. She is the Alameda County grassroots organizer at Planned Parenthood.
All right, we've been watching the No Kings protest in Oakland, and we'll continue our coverage as this day of protest at 2,000 locations across the country continue, including some of the largest crowds we've ever seen in the Bay Area, and this one in the East Bay. We'll be right back. And welcome back to CBS News Bay Area as we look live out at this National Day of Protest in Oakland. The No Kings protest joining 2,000 other locations from coast to coast in this summer of discontent across the nation on this, the president's 79th birthday, where in Washington, he has arranged for a military parade subsequent to observances of the Army's 250th anniversary. And there, Natalie Brand is standing by as we continue our coverage live on CBS News Bay Area. Natalie, this is Brian Hackney back in San Francisco. The parade has not started yet. Tell us what things look like out there. Any protests?
Hi, Brian. Parade is about to begin very shortly. We've learned that the president has made his way over from the White House to this area. He has not yet been formally introduced, but that will happen in a little bit. This is such a tight security perimeter that there are absolutely no protests anywhere close to this just because of the extent of the security around it. Again, this parade kicking off shortly along a major thoroughfare here in Washington, D.C., Constitution. It will be featuring everything from flyovers to fireworks.
Natalie, do you know how long the parade is scheduled to go?
It really depends, Brian, on the weather at this point, I think, because, thunderstorms may potentially be in the forecast, and that could change the dynamic here. At this point, it has been previously scheduled to run a couple of hours or more, featuring nearly 7,000 Army soldiers, as well as tanks dating back to World War I. A lot of equipment on the ground, also equipment in the air, from helicopters to Black Hawks. So a lot of planning went into this. Of course, this coincides with the Army's 250th birthday celebration, which has really been going on all week over on the Mall. Military families had gathered and said this is a really important day for them to be here and to celebrate the Army. It is important to note that planning for the Army's birthday actually started nearly 2 years ago, so before the second Trump administration. However, a military parade like this was added earlier this year. We know that this has been a push by President Trump going back to his first term after he saw a military parade in France honoring Bastille Day. During the first term, there were concerns about cost. It did not happen during the first administration. There are still a lot of critics who point to the cost and optics of this parade, including, some veterans who worry about a politicization of the military. Other veterans we've been speaking to today say something like this is long overdue in their view, that they want to be here to celebrate service and sacrifice by the United States military. And also, the last parade similar to this was back in 1991 to mark the end of the Gulf War, Brian.
As you've been reporting out there, and just as you've been out and about, I assume you sleep somewhere before you come to work. Between there and where you are now, did you see any signs of discontent, or are things fairly quiet in the Capitol this afternoon?
Well, notably, Brian, I know that you have been covering the No Kings demonstrations, which are happening, in your area and everywhere nationwide. Driving here, I did see some activity on bridges, driving from nearby Northern Virginia into D.C., but the No Kings organizers actually said quite clearly that they were not going to organize a major demonstration in Washington, D.C., because they wanted the focus elsewhere in communities and cities across the country. And again, just to kind of give you a sense of the security perimeter, there are miles and miles of anti-scale fencing around here in order to get into this area, which is not far from, the National Mall. We're pretty much on the National Mall. You have to go through heavy security with mags, metal detectors, TSA screening all of your bags. So members of the public and families have traveled from near and far to be here, but they have to go through all of that security. and also deal with all the road closures in the surrounding area. Add to that kind of an iffy weather forecast. And I think a lot of people, if they could avoid Washington, D.C., they did, and really focused on these demonstrations elsewhere, closer to their communities, in neighboring Maryland and Virginia.
Understood. I mean, not to introduce a dour note into it, but it was during a military parade, I think in '79, with Anwar Sadat, and not, hoping nothing like this happens, but just to emphasize the need for security. But Anwar Sadat in Egypt was killed during a military parade, so I'm sure that they have to be thinking about the fact that they've got a million different things they need to worry about, and that military parade now within about 25 minutes of beginning on this, the president's 79th birthday. We hope everything, of course, goes peacefully. That's Natalie Brand live in Washington, D.C. as they prepare for that military parade. Natalie, thanks very much. Back here in the Bay Area, since midday today, thousands have gathered at what is, I think, Protest Central in San Francisco. Sarah would know, at Dolores Park, where crowds gathered and then marched down to Civic Center. And that's where Sarah Donchie is to bring us the latest. Sarah?
Brian, Dolores Park certainly was Protest Central earlier today. The crew that I'm with was all remarking at the size of the crowd. There were so many people at Dolores Park earlier that it was difficult for us to even get from one side of Dolores to the other. From sidewalk to sidewalk, the park, the streets were packed tightly because there were so many people that gathered there to march here to Civic Center Plaza. And obviously, the crowds have thinned out significantly, Brian, since we were here earlier. We've been here for several hours now. A lot of people have left to go home. Earlier, the plaza was full of people with signs and who were protesting, and there were speakers here on a stage just outside the steps of City Hall. Now you can see just a few dozen people in the little plaza here that you see, but still people hanging around here, a lot of them sort of gathering, still talking amongst themselves, but nothing like what we saw earlier when there were tens of thousands of people marching in the streets to come here. And really, Brian, earlier we talked a lot about the plurality of issues that brought people out here today. We spoke with multiple people today who were all here for their own particular reasons. Immigration was among them. Human rights violations, as they described it, were others. Here is what people had to say to us earlier about the reasons that brought them out to this incredibly large protest today.
Sarah, you've been out there since dark 100 this morning and watching everything unfold. I'm just curious, just to emphasize, everything has been peaceful, pretty much?
Yeah, remarkably so. In fact, we have been reporting for days that the organizers really expressed their intention to keep things as calm and peaceful as possible. Not just peaceful, we really didn't see any kind of major issues along the route to get here. We kind of had to step a couple blocks away just to get cell signal to be able to broadcast what was going on to our viewers. But we really didn't see any major issues of any kind. I mean, people were relatively happy. There was no kind of disruption that we were able to see from our vantage point here. And also notably, Brian, we didn't see the massive police presence that we've seen at other demonstrations. I know SFPD and the Sheriff's Department made a point today that they said they were going to be out in full force to facilitate First Amendment activities. But really, pretty much everywhere we looked, we saw protesters, we saw demonstrators. We didn't see a ton of officers. I did see some CHP on motorcycles just a few minutes ago, kind of going back and forth here. SFPD is staged just a bit away from here, and notably, the San Francisco Fire Department is staged behind us here, and their members are dressed in tactical gear. They have medics in tactical gear, and they have an engine here as well. But really not a lot for them to do. I mean, we had people come down here, and obviously they were blocking the streets for a time. But Brian, like you said, it was relatively orderly.
Okay, Sarah, stand by just a second, but we're also showing our viewers on CBS News Bay Area the president at the military parade being held in D.C. That's a live view where Donald Trump has just shown up for the military parade celebrating the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army, and incidentally, the president's 79th birthday, as you know by now. So that is live from D.C., live at the Civic Center Plaza. Sarah, I just had one more thing to ask you. And that is, you've been there for hours, you've seen a lot of stuff. Is there a moment that to you stood out? I mean, was it more than just people milling about? Was there something that sticks out in your mind?
You know, I can tell you, Brian, that it wasn't an individual moment. It was a feeling that stuck out. You know, we in our careers have covered so many protests, even civil unrest in some cases over the years. Obviously, 2020 was a huge moment for that. I think the atmosphere, the resolve of people, even though people were relatively, in fact, incredibly upset and motivated to come here to explain what they feel is wrong in this country right now, and certainly politically, people were relatively upbeat given all that is going on right now and all of the reasons that they shared with us. I would say what stood out to me, Brian, was the atmosphere. It was very much sort of more of a community feel, even though this was a huge, huge group of people, and people seemed to be in relatively good spirits, Brian.
That is Sarah Donchie, live at the Civic Center. Sarah, thank you for being out there for hours today. And we at CBS News Bay Area will continue our coverage of what's happening now. You're watching again Donald Trump at the outset of the military parade in Washington, D.C. CBS News Bay Area 24/7 live coverage of this National Day of Protest will continue when we come back. CBS News Bay Area, our coverage of this National Day of Protest, dubbed 50 Kings, continues, and we look live at the President and the First Lady as they review, or will begin to review, the U.S. military on this, the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. And as we look at this live, we also have on the phone Tom Del Beccaro, former chief of the Republican Party in California, and has been a candidate for a number of offices. Tom, thanks for joining us. Have you got me and have I got you?
Yeah, I'm here. Nice to hear from you.
Okay, Tom, it's good hearing from you too, and thanks for taking time. All day long, the president has taken, let's face it, it's taken a battering in 2,000 protests from coast to coast. From your perspective, which we don't hear a lot of, how are Republicans viewing, how are you viewing what's happening today?
Well, the historian in me tells you that I wrote a book called The Divided Era. We do live in two very different, almost paradigms with the two parties.
Mm-hmm.
And the polling of the president hasn't changed significantly since the outset. So most people on the right are happy with his desire to fulfill his promises, but the reasons why the Democrats voted against him last fall remain, and we live in this, what I call the divided era.
Can you compare it to some former eras? I mean, are you thinking Civil War kind of divided eras, or are you thinking of other times?
Well, the reasons we're divided so much today is normal in history, which is when the stakes are high, the division rises. I don't see us in anywhere near what it was like for the Revolution, even the Constitution's adoption or the Civil War. But there are so many there's a broad philosophical division, but because government does so much, every day it picks a winner and a loser. And so that's why, and someone to pay for it. And so that's why we have so much division today, but I don't see it in the crisis point, although, let's face it, there was an attempt on the president's life last year, and another, I don't know how far you want to call an assassination attempt the second, but it's not nearly as bad as the Civil War.
No, I would agree with you on that. In terms of execution, for instance, what happened in Los Angeles last weekend with the deployment of the National Guard, do you sometimes, let me ask you the question this way. Do you agree with what Trump is trying to do, but have a problem with the way that he's doing it?
Well, fighting out of control, a group that is potentially out of control is not an easy thing to do, and there is no delicate way truly to do it. I mean, there were protests in the year 2020 that got out of control, and so some would say that the best way to do it is to inject yourself early in the process, but because we are so divided, even that's not going to work. So I'm not sure that it could have been played so significantly different that it would have made a difference to those who didn't want them there at all.
So do you think that that what has been happening lately, the ICE roundups and the cycle of protests as a result of the ICE roundups, simply are going to continue, and Mr. Trump is not going to pull back on the method or the execution of essentially rounding up immigrants?
Well, it does seem like he is shifting a bit. He tweeted out industry specific changes that he may well be making. I think this process will die down over the next 4 to 5 months. I don't think this will be as significant an issue because I don't think they will be doing this for the next year at the same level that they are now. Mm-hmm. Really, the Republicans are on the clock with respect to the economy and the budget, and I think that issue is going to be more prominent 6 months from now.
Well, the budget's a separate issue. I mean, I would only say that, Tom, you and I could talk forever about how good a budget is when it is trillions in deficit spending, which is something that you don't expect from an Eisenhower Republican. And I realize that he was given a burden.
But my point is, if the Republicans don't get this right, that is going to be a massive issue for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I agree. So you're in lockstep with what he's proposed with his most recent budget?
Well, unquestionably, the tax reforms have to stay there. We're going to go into a recession. We have to get spending under control. Social Security is $100 billion underwater now. It's going to be $300 billion in 10 years from now, and we have to save those programs by not spending elsewhere if we can.
Let's switch topics if we can. And again, we're listening to Tom Del Beccaro, the former chairman of the California Republican Party, as we're watching live at both the president on his 79th birthday, Donald Trump, the left-hand side of your screen, and the military parade that has been so much talked about in the preceding weeks, now unfolding before him on the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. Tom, the last time, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that Republican held a big office in California, don't we have to go back to Pete? Well, there was Arnold Schwarzenegger, but then before that, in the Senate, there was Pete Wilson.
92.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Exactly.
What's the future of do you ever, as a Republican, change that tide in a state that has a Democratic supermajority right now in the state legislature?
Well, I think if you saw the Prop 36 vote last fall, where 70% essentially voted for what would be a Republican position that Newsom was against. Mm-hmm. I've said ever since I was the chairman in 2011, and even before that, Republicans need to provide practical solutions to the voters in clear terms and put it in the voters' hands. They have not done that. They have not provided a bold alternative that people could recognize. They've been kind of quiet and didn't provide these solutions. That's what minority parties need to do if they ever want to come back. And that's true for the Democrats at the national level today. They have to come out with different leaders providing solutions, putting it in people's hands. The Republicans haven't done it in this state for too long, and if they want to make a comeback, they have to convince people they have the way to fix the potholes in the streets. It's that simple.
Okay. Tom, I was told that was my last question. I've got a quick one for you. Is Newsom going to run in 2028 for the presidency?
I think he declares in December of this year.
You heard it here first. Tom Del Vaccaro. Tom, really appreciate your perspective. Thanks for taking time for us this afternoon.
Of course.
This is CBS News Bay Area 24/7 coverage, in this instance of the U.S. military parade in Washington, D.C., which you are watching live. We'll be back with more when we come back.
We have the right to protest a right to make sure that our government is not unlawful, that it uplifts and supports the Constitution and does not break laws. Does not break laws. And you all know what you know what laws we're talking about, right? And I, just a moment of personal privilege, was born and raised in a border town in El Paso, Texas, in an immigrant community. And I know what it's like to be intimidated. And I know what it's like to be worried. And I know what it's like to be anxious about what could take place. So let's circle the wagons. Let's make sure that our immigrant community knows that we stand with them. And that we're not going to allow any outside interference in our community, and we're going to peacefully protest, right? We're going to uphold our constitutional rights, right? And we're going to repeat once again that we're going to protect our democracy, that we do not allow dictators in a democracy, because we are not going to allow this country, our great country, to devolve into an autocracy. And that's what we are pushing back on. Let's stand strong, and thank you for showing up, and thank you for showing out.
Giving tax breaks to billionaires and stealing our
Earlier today at Franco Gala Plaza near the 13th Street Station in downtown Oakland, 12th Street Station. And we're looking at live speakers as they continue this afternoon on this, a national day of protest from coast to coast, where 2,000 different communities and probably more took part in the No Kings protests. Largely peaceful, especially the ones here in the Bay Area. It began at midday in San Francisco at Dolores Park and marched down to the Civic Center, and in Oakland at Franco Gala Plaza, where they have had a number of speakers throughout the day today. All peaceful, no problems. Similar things held, similar protests and presentations held from San Jose out to Walnut Creek, up in Marin, where they had an unusually large turnout. And we've been covering this throughout the day. The estimates in San Francisco is that crowds topped perhaps 50,000 people. And the estimates today are that this could be the largest coast-to-coast protest on record for the United States. That remains to be seen. What remains to be said is that there are a number of people unhappy with the present administration who showed up today to make their feelings known, and to this point have made them known in a largely peaceful way. At the same time, in Washington, D.C., military parade began about 10 minutes ago, marching in front of the President, First Lady, and Vice President as a $25 million parade continued in front of them. We'll listen in to what's being said here in Oakland as we wrap things up at CBS News Bay Area.
And then 4
Let's listen.
years later, when I won a seat on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors and led and passed the first $15 minimum wage ordinance in California, one of the most affordable housing in the city's history, and then made San Francisco in 2016 the only city to make community college tuition free. I was able to do this, but I did not do this alone. I did this with you. I did it with everyday people, single-room occupancy residents who are formerly homeless, immigrants, seniors, young people, tenants, teachers, and organized labor. We need to do so much more than defeat Trump. We are a rich state. We are the fourth largest economy in the world, which means that we can and must lead an agenda for the people and by the people. So in our first 3 years at Working Families Party here in California, we have recruited and elected over 100 young folks, people of color, women, to school boards, city council, state legislature.
Over in Oakland at Franco Gala Plaza on this day of protest. At the same time, across the country in the nation's capital, parade celebrating the U.S. Army's 250th year, coincident with the president's 79th birthday. Began about 10 minutes ago and will go on for we don't quite know how much longer, but we do know this, that we will be covering this live at the bottom of the half hour. CBS News Bay Area will bring live coverage of the U.S. Army's 250th year parade in the nation's capital in front of the President and First Lady on the President's 79th birthday on this, what has been a largely peaceful day of protest. The latest on CBS News Bay Area coming up in just minutes, and also on CBS News at 11 o'clock tonight. In the meantime, thanks for watching.
Now on their heads, you'll see a steel helmet with sand texture paint built to deflect deadly shrapnel from above. Iraqi Freedom 3. The band has also served in support of numerous state active duty missions, including cleanup efforts following Hurricane Sandy, distribution support during COVID-19, and recently support for New York State Corrections. Commanded by Chief Warrant Officer 2 Ethan Wagner and led by Drum Major Sergeant First Class Drew Gans, the band is performing Over There, written in 1917 by Broadway composer and recipient of the Congressional Gold Medal George M. Cohan. Representing the World War I era is the 82nd Airborne Division, based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. You'll notice the unit is wearing replica World War I uniforms signifying the soldiers who served our nation during this time. When the Americans entered the Great War, our soldiers, under the command of General Blackjack